Chris, thank you for being here and making this happen. We've been talking about doing this for forever, for a long time.
I think it was 2021.
Was it that long?
So. I think we connected in 21 and you were like, hey, I saw some stuff. I would love to like maybe have you on my podcast.
Oh my God,
and it was like,
dude.
Cool. But like, I only go on podcasts when I like the people. I need to know you for, let's talk.
Yeah.
And 4 years of talking, we decided.
Talked a lot.
Talked a lot.
It's funny, dude. Anytime you call me and like I'm in the middle of something, if Kylie's right there, she looks at me, she's like, you better tell him 15 minutes because she knows that me and you, like, I'm going to talk to you for like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Minimum.
Man.
But how are you today?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. I'm how do I put this? I'm a little, I won't say disheartened. It's almost like disappointed in mankind in the so-called like truth community at this point with this whole Charlie Kirk situation. And it's a couple things. It's people coming to these assertions with 100% conviction based on footage that is lacking so much context, one way or the other. Like whether you
and
think
pixels.
100, yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's that piece coming to these conclusions that they can't be possibly making with 100% conviction, and that's what they're coming across as on all sides, right? But mostly I see in the camp of, it is 100% staged, and if you think otherwise, you're crazy. And that's the second part, is not inviting open questioning and curiosity if it goes against whatever your preconceived ideas are, whatever your belief is telling you about what is occurring. Because at this stage, at the time of this recording at least, no one knows exactly what went on with that. And I don't think by the time this comes out that we'll have any clearer picture on what happened.
We'll have a more muddy picture.
Exactly.
Just like we know exactly who shot Trump the second time. Total clarity. Oh, yeah. What's that mean with the girl from SNL? She's like, oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I share that sentiment in terms of the frustration with mankind and the truther movement. But if you ask me, it's just born out of a vacuum of needing to fill the lie with something of substance.
Yeah.
You're in your 30s, I'm north of that. And our entire life, I do believe that a good chunk of what we've seen as crises on the media has been a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people's gut feelings and their now conscious understanding has come around the corner to be like, something's off about it.
Something's off. I just don't know what.
I don't know what. Exactly. And so to your point about people jumping to conclusions or being really adamant about takes and angles from Charlie's situation that are quite limited in terms of their resolution and their context, you're right. I just wonder if it's kind of almost like, well, it's one of those like, I get it. I can't say I agree, but I understand. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not saying I agree, but I understand.
Totally.
Because we've just been lied to and gaslit so hard by our media to this day, right? To this actual day. He changed clothes twice. He tossed the gun he reassembled it and then tossed it in the woods and then got away. We don't know how, but 33 hours later, we know it was 33. We know that. We found him. Justice is a historic, they said that, historic moment in time. Did you see that?
Yep.
And I said, excuse me, what is a historic moment? Like, what is a historic time period of finding a perpetrator? Because plenty of perps have been found in less than 33 hours.
Right.
I'm just going, y'all just be saying stuff like patriotic and historic just because of the brand. It doesn't actually make any sense.
Right.
And I think people are starting to see that.
Yeah.
And what we're talking to is the frustration that we both share, I believe, in people needing to put something in that hole when they don't really have. They can take the lie out of it, but they don't know what the truth is yet just because of context. And so without patience or without the nuance of saying, hey, I could be wrong, people are injecting exactly what they think happened. And maybe that's by design.
I think so, man. It's almost like we're living, because of how much AI has proliferated the digital space. Rather, like it's pervasive all across the digital space, right? And people are now coming to the conclusion that they can't trust what's shown to them on these digital spaces, justifiably so, because of AI and because of all the counterfeit psyops that have happened over the course of, the last several decades, if not beyond that. And because of that, it's like the post-truth world. That's what someone said to me in the comments recently, where it's like people are literally operating just off of their own belief systems, and they're entrenching themselves deeper into that at this point, because they know that, just like you're saying, someone's lying to them, that we've been lied to all along, and because of that, they immediately jump back into their belief systems and just entrench themselves deeper into it because it feels comfortable, it feels safe, because people struggle sitting in the uncertainty and in the I don't know. I don't know.
And I don't know don't bring clicks and likes.
Exactly.
It don't bring monetization dollars. And we trying to make this money, so we got to know, even if we don't know. That's the season we're in. You know, to your point just a second ago about not being able to trust what we see, I think that that problem is exacerbated beyond crises, meaning I find myself just I try not to doom scroll much, but occasionally the doom scroll comes upon me. And when I do, I'm noticing more and more recently, okay, hold on. I got like 400 or 500 people I'm following that I clicked follow because I was interested. I'm seeing like none of that. I'm seeing 3 or 4 popular comedy accounts that post 5 times a day. And then it's a mix between ads and sponsored posts. And what I'm noticing is that the ads are whatever, but the sponsored posts are increasingly AI generated. And you can always tell that one guy that talks like this, the voice, you've heard that voice. He is that guy. Nobody really talks like this in real life, but the AI guy does. That guy and the female version of it. Plus the amount of times I've looked at some like animal video or some car crash or something, and then later been like, hold on, like that's a video game. Like, hold on. And I do video, like I do this stuff, right? So I'm like acutely aware of when we're dealing with CG. Well, let me back that up. I'm not acutely aware of when we're dealing with CG. I'm able to, if I go into that mode, be critical, but I'm not in that mode when I'm doom scrolling. I'm just watching something. And it's not until I see a comment and they're like, this is AI, and I go, really? Holy smokes, this is AI. And I like didn't even catch that myself. I've caught myself watching fake content thinking it was real, sharing it with a friend, like, oh, this is crazy, look at this bird, look at this car. And then I've been like, this is getting to a problem when even the video guy that does VFX can't tell when he's looking at VFX until I have to put my VFX mode on. Then I got to look at frame rates and motion blur anomalies, and then you can be like, okay, yeah, something's off about this. But that came to my awareness big time when I got into a comment beef, we'll say, with some gentlemen on a Boston Dynamics video. Boston Dynamics, they make robots and drones and things like the famous robot dog. And I at no point was ever confused about the fact that they do make that. But there was a very famous trending video of a Boston Dynamics robot attempting to help a guy lift a bag onto a scaffolding. And they were basically saying, see what our robotics has become now over the years of R&D. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, y'all, this is not real. Like, I'm not denying that Boston Dynamics makes robots. I'm just saying that's not what we're looking at. Right? I'm not denying that Apple makes Apple Watches, but when we see the Apple Watch ad, you're looking at computer renderings, okay? But this was a very highly engaging comment on a pretty popular Boston Dynamics post where for months I had people chiming in like, this guy's, he doesn't know what he's talking about. You should go to their YouTube. You can look at the behind the scenes, look at it in 4K. I'm like, okay, go straight and look at it in 4K. And that's when I noticed what's happening. So I go and look at this video in 4K, and the 4K does nothing but confirm my understanding. I can clearly see the motion blur doesn't match, and the CG is a little janky in places, but you can't see that in standard definition. So when each of these cameras is recording, we're talking 1080 at the minimum, or 4K, or some of the new ones will do 8K. But ain't nobody uploading nothing in 8K and barely in 4K unless you're talking Netflix or something deliberate. Maybe you'll do 1080, and maybe you'll have good enough signal for the upload so that the receiving Meta server or YouTube server or whatever won't over compress it, or your phone won't, just to make the upload easier. Then you're dealing with the screen share of a screen share of a screen share of somebody retweeting a repost from Willacoochee, Iowa, and Nowheresville, Nebraska, and bumfuck elsewhere, wherever. And when that little 2G, 3G, 4G signal isn't in 5G mode, the server is sending a lower SD, a 720p or a 480p or 360p version of that video. So what we're looking at in the case of Charlie shootings and half this stuff on the social media is lower than standard definition. So at that same exact time, every camera and every television is going up in quality, and every person's expectation is going down in quality. And so what we're being met with is a world full of people that don't care about low quality content because it's all they get 99% of the time, unless they have a 4K OLED TV with the 4K YouTube subscription and the Google Fiber link and all the stuff that you actually need to see 4K. I went on that tangent to explain we're being dumbed down in terms of our taste and what we accept as okay, so that they can get away with stuff like what happened with Charlie's situation, right, or any of these other fake it till you make it type YouTube scenarios. It only works because our taste and our acceptance of quality is that reduced, that blurry, so to speak.
That makes a lot of sense. And for me, that brings me to the conclusion that I came to the other day. Whether it's real, completely real, and he was actually shot and killed, or whether it was totally staged and this dude's on an island somewhere hiding, or it's somewhere in between that, I think is irrelevant to those who want us to be sucked onto these devices and obsessively looking at them, not realizing what you just said about the low quality, because everyone is analyzing this low quality footage and coming to these conclusions with 100% certainty and conviction that they can't possibly know one way or the other, rather than saying, hey, I think it might be this, but I don't know for sure. Ultimately, this is what it's going to be used for. And I feel like that's the piece that people are missing right now at this point in time. Hopefully it'll change. I think this doesn't apply as much to my audience, but just the larger like truth/conspiracy/ question everything community, is that how it's going to be used is what matters the most.
Correct.
By far, whether it was real estate or otherwise, how it's going to be used. And I think a big piece of that, though, is what we're sort of going to talk about today with respect to our relationship to technology, is that being obsessively glued to our devices. And I'd be lying, bro, if I said that over the past few days with this Charlie Kirk situation that I haven't been on my phone more. I'd be lying. I have. I absolutely have. So I acknowledge that fully 100%. And I think a lot of people, if they really took a good inventory of their time, they probably would too, because an event happened. We're trying to figure out what's going on with it. And so we've become accustomed to turning to this to try to figure out what's going on, quote, out there.
That's actually a great point, because take that same concept. Charlie Kirk is a very singular individual and situation, but apply that more broadly to something like COVID-19. So we're not going to get into whether it existed and where it came from and all that. That's for a different episode, different day. But I remember that season, the 2020-2021 season, being the first time where it really hit me that perception drives reality, kind of, because I'm thinking, if we go outside of our house, like anybody, no matter where you live, and you looked at your neighbor left and right, what you would probably see is a normal, healthy, not sick person, period. Mask or no mask, coughing or not coughing, whatever. It was the screen. It was the reality that the television and phone contributed to that made that a real thing.
Yes.
So to Kaufman's point or Callan's point, COVID doesn't exist. Well, sure, from a virological standpoint, I agree. But from a energetic reality, it was conjured out of thin air.
Mass psychogenic illness, mass social contagion, like thought forms, things like this.
Yeah. And it was, absolutely, as a person who's a fan of sociology, I was always more like, wow, so like it doesn't have to be real. Enough people just have to say that it is. And then it is. Because whether it is or isn't doesn't matter. It's the effect. Like whether he was shot by a lone shooter with 50,000 different ninja skills none of us heard about, or not, or it was an intelligence agency hit job, it doesn't matter, because the end result is the same effect. And I gave this example in a talk one time, a podcast, where I go, if I rob you, if my goal is to rob you, and I can successfully steal your money or your whatever by putting my finger under my shirt and making you think I have a gun, at that point, I'm controlling your perception, and whether or not I have a gun doesn't matter. Especially once I get the stuff and we done and you left, you call filing a police warrant and all this stuff. All of that is a prime example of how perception can drive reality.
Yes.
You're sitting over there and you're like, oh, holy crap, this guy has a gun. He could kill me. You perceive that I have a gun. The fact of whether or not I have one is irrelevant. In fact, it's actually safer for me to bluff my way through this, because if ever I'm caught, I simply had, well, officer, what are you talking about? It was my friend, it's Alec. It's a joke. Can't take a joke, bro. I'm not trying to rob you. Where's the gun? Where's the gun?
Right.
So you can always create this alibi when you're dealing with the bluff. And I just get the impression that the powers that be know that.
Yep.
So at this point, the bluff or the direct, and I dare you to blame it on me, is a more effective psychological strategy than actually having 10 people act and fake the funk.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Yeah.
So in the act of, right, like hiding a weapon under your shirt, if I were to do that to you, hiding my hand and it appears to you as a weapon, you're going to experience real, measurable physiological effects in your body, right? And then when this type of act, this bluffing, this making things appear as if they're not, just conditioning someone through perception, like you're saying, happens over and over and over again, people start making real world decisions individually and collectively based on that false perception. So not only are you having real and measurable physiological effects, a bunch of other people are too when it comes to mass perception of a false situation. And then they're making real world decisions based on if that thing is real. Yeah. And that's without even getting into, okay, the possibility, I'd say strong likelihood, that our focused awareness has a measurable impact on reality itself and the way reality orchestrates itself. I'm talking about without even getting into that stuff, right? And I think that is another piece of it too. But the point is, like, if you think what we're talking about is a little bit too, quote, woo-woo, think about if someone came up to you in the scenario just like Chris brought up. You would experience real cortisol spikes in your system. You would experience real, measurable heart rate increase, like real physiological effects to something that is fundamentally not real. And not only that, drive your decisions thereafter. Maybe you're like, oh, we need to lock our house a little bit more. We need to be a little bit more afraid. We need to have security cameras put up. So think about that as it applies to literally any other given situation. And to your point, I completely agree. Like the whole SARS-CoV-2 thing, I've spoken about this ad infinitum. Like I've already covered it so many times. You know where I stand on that, and we're on the same page on that. And at the same time, if a mass number of people fundamentally believe that something is real, it doesn't freaking matter. They're still going to create the physiological effects in their body as if it is real, and then make decisions based on it being real. And again, it is important to call out that it is not real in that case, but I think that's because with SARS-CoV-2, the whole virology thing can be used time and time again. But when it comes to a situation like, for example, Charlie Kirk, like that act has already passed. And yes, they could stage totally fabricated shootings in the future. But the reality is it's more important to understand, even if you have come to the conclusion that it's fake, totally fine. How are the masses going to respond to this? And let's talk about how we mitigate that response.
Yes, mitigation. Because at the end of the day, anybody, like whether we want to believe the FBI line about it being a lone gunman, or we want to go with the more pattern recognizable line of an intelligence agency took him out, it doesn't change the fact that people are looking to place it somewhere. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the why, to your point, becomes a little bit irrelevant. The who, I should say, becomes a little irrelevant. The what and the when and the where and all that, that's what people are focusing on. And I just think that that mitigation is important, because if the point was to drive division, whether you're talking a trans person trying to drive division amongst conservatives or an intelligence agency trying to drive division amongst groypers versus less conservative groypers, I don't know. Doesn't matter whoever's behind the motivations of those actions is getting the results they want if every person stays reactive and outside of mitigation mode.
Yep.
And so none of us expected this to occur. So, please don't take what we're pontificating about Charlie's assassination to be some sort of grand scheme or plan. I'm just going, we have similar sentiments. I texted you like later in that day when it happened, and I just remember thinking, let's try to, like, we know a lot's going to go down in the first 24, 36 hours, so let's soak up what we can. But I just think that, I guess I've, like you've been a bit disappointed with just the way that I've seen it inflame people. Yes. I know people who are like, who's Charlie Kirk? Oh, that's awful. Let me go look at some stuff. And all they're seeing is the worst of the things he's ever said or the best of the things he's ever said.
Yeah.
And that's my whole point. It's like, I probably like you, I didn't agree with everything Charlie Kirk said.
100%.
But I'll be goddamn if you're going to be able to clip me like that on that many negative sounding sound bites.
Right.
It's almost like
making him appear overtly racist, and then you go watch the full clip, and it's like,
and then
no.
It's not correct. But this is what happens when you have 1,000 hours of discussion, and you are a polarizing individual, for better or worse. Because you could probably go do the same thing about people on the left or about people further on the right than Charlie was. So the point I'm trying to make is, we're entering into this zone where individual responsibility almost becomes more important than who shot him, or like
100%.
Was it them or them, or like, even if you're right or even if your hunch is wrong, but you later find out that it, new information, how you disseminate, whether you can find respect for somebody who's basically just got executed on public television, or you just have everything to say but can't find 3 words of respect. That's saying more about you and your state and your field and all this than the assailant's energy being put into it, because we can always transmute and reflect and deflect that. But not when everybody trigger happy and everybody got to be right, get them clicks, boy.
Did you see that tweet that Laura Matsu put out? She was like, it has never been easier to see who's cut off from their soul than it is now.
I did. You posted that?
Yeah, it was
somebody
paraphrased,
reposted.
But I was like, oh my goodness.
That's a mile high right there.
For real, man. Like, on all sides of the spectrum, truther, non-truther, Republican, leftist, you are seeing right now people's true colors, and where they're coming from, and if they're coming from here or they're coming from here in a connection to the Most High.
Right.
Like that.
You're seeing it.
Seeing it.
And the crazy thing about the internet is that the internet don't be really, it's kind of forever, right? There what they say, or internet's kind of forever. And I just have this hunch that everybody's worst version of themselves is about to be up for audit and review. I have this hunch that at some point in the future, some Palantir style something or other is going to be like, hey, we got hacked. And now that there's a hack, if you type this code in your ChatGPT, you can see your entire spouse's history of their thoughts.
Yep,
something
100%.
Crazy where your sins and your indiscretions are now on Main Street, so long as they got your IP address or whatever. And I think that people are going to have to really actually answer for what they say, for better or worse. There are going to be a lot of people that spoke the truth, got crapped on for it, and have retribution or restitution restored later because of this. Then conversely, on the flip side, there's going to be a lot of people that is going to be held to actually what they did say. Because that's the thing. In real life, we are held to what we say. Like, if I just go up to Alec and go up to Alec's wife and be like, Kylie, I don't know, I think you ugly. Alec might just come and punch me in the face, and that just might be a consequence of what you say when you disrespect some dude's girl in front of them. The internet has lost all of that. I mean, people will talk about Kylie left and right with no retribution, you punching them.
Call me a tranny.
Exactly.
Literally make a video about me being a tranny, bro. Which I thought was funny, but yeah.
Alec's a tranny apparently now. I learn something new every day. So I'm trying to find, in my approaches, my discussions and podcasts, and honestly, I recognize you doing the same thing, trying to find ways to be creative and to be anti-inflammatory, I call it, just ways that I can speak that are either have so much comedy or kind of color in them that it's hard to really get mad at what I'm saying, or to try to educate people on something that makes them a bit less scared, so that diffusion is the end and not an amping up or an exacerbation of where we are. Because, bro, I'll be honest, I like America. I like Americans. I just don't got I don't have a collective hope for a corporate fix. Right. I have belief that you can be better, that you can be better, that you can be better, that I can be better. But as America, the concept, I mean, call me a pessimist. I have tons of faith in Americans.
Yep. People.
I just don't got a lot of faith in the concept.
Yes.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I'm on the same page 100%. And speaking of like trying to touch on a topic in a way that doesn't induce fear but still gives the information to give awareness to what might be, I think this is a good segue into some of the information you've uncovered with Sabrina Wallace. So I'm going to give the floor to you to share as best you can that. And I'll ask questions where I need to.
So it was about 2 months before my son was born. So we're talking somewhere in the middle toward the end of 2023. Several people send me a video clip. And it's the same clip as of this lady. Maybe you've heard of her, maybe you haven't. Her name is Sabrina Wallace. And it was Sabrina kind of going on one of her general tirades and rants about the biodigital convergence and the fusion of the human body into the internet. Not only the internet of bodies, but the internet in general. Mm-hmm. And because people, I suppose, understood that I had a little bit of a tech background, is why they sent me her work. And so this has happened 2 or 3 times in my learning process where I'll see somebody's work, get introduced to a body of work, and I get blown away because in my mind I go, half of what she says makes total perfect sense. And the other half sounds completely batshit insane. Like I have no clue where to place this person because they can't be fully crazy because the other half that I already know about checks out. It's really solid. The engineering part, the IP part, the TCP IP, the internet protocol part, that all checks out. Was she over here talking about with this biodigital convergence in the human biofield? I don't know what these terms mean. So it was probably a good 6 months or 6 weeks of me binging through her channel at first because I found enough to be like, there's something here. Mm-hmm. I am 40 years old now. I'll be 41 pretty soon. But I was a nerd as a kid, 14, 15 years old, got our first family PC in 90, whenever that was, 98, 99 somewhere. And I remember being like writing software, a little code monkey, so to speak. And it was a huge part of my childhood, computer science. And I started school as an engineer in an engineering college with an engineering degree under computer science. And I just remember software and coding and just everything about how apps and the internet work was always what I was enjoyed as a child. Somewhere in my 20s, theater, editing, arts, visuals, music kind of took the forefront above the computer stuff. Sports was a big part of my childhood by virtue of the fact I can like touch you with my toe here, 6'7". But I was not prepared to learn of the acute assault that we're under. Well, I was prepared. I was halfway prepared. Mm-hmm. The half of me that was not prepared was learning that there's a tremendous gap between what we think goes on and what actually goes on. Mm. And Sabrina's work helped close that gap for me because as I started to dive through her channel, I would be inspired to share it with a bunch of friends. And every single person I would send it to was kind of like, cool, bro. I have no clue what this lady's talking about. I'm sure it probably makes some sort of sense in some dimension in some galaxy, but I don't know. So you got to break this down for me. And it hit me that there's a gap between what people are able to understand technically and what people are willing to understand with time. And that gap isn't as wide. It's not super wide, but it's wide enough to be a big void that I felt I was called to fill. Mm-hmm. Because what I feel like I'm capable of doing or good at doing is pattern recognition and explaining complex things in a very simple way. What Sabrina began talking about and what I was learning at the time was a very complex subject, and I'll explain that for people who are unfamiliar with her work. So what I became aware of was the fact that the human biofield is actually best considered a body part. We have what we know as 5 senses. The 5 senses are sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. Those senses are governed by body parts known as the eyeballs, the ears or eardrums, the olfactory sensors, the nerve endings, and the taste buds. And we all saw the movie The Sixth Sense. We all heard the folklore about the Sixth Sense. We all call it a spidey sense or a gut feeling or a heebie-jeebie or a moojoo or a juju. Everybody, grandma got a nickname for it.
Or just intuition.
Intuition, the Holy Spirit. There's tons of different ways to classify this. But the simplest way was the way Sabrina was explaining. You guys, it's the body part that governs your sixth sense. Everybody acknowledges the sixth sense. Nobody wants to talk about the body part that governs it. And the reason I came to find out was because they're actively using that body part to connect in and out from you, to receive and to transmit information to you and receive biosignals from you. And while that might sound like woo-woo for people unfamiliar with it, I was able to understand from an engineering standpoint that everybody's heartbeat produces a pattern, and that pattern can be seen as a rhythm, and that rhythm can be measured as a frequency, often falling somewhere in the megahertz category. But that megahertz is your unique biosignature. And just as simple as breathing or existing is you placing a digital signature out into the world. Mm-hmm. Now, sure, with a radar or some sort of injectable or wearable, that probably is measurable. It was news to me that wireless systems and the standardization of our common Wi-Fi and Bluetooth that we all are familiar with was part of integrating humans into this.
Are we talking about like I've seen lately someone put out how they can use overlapping Wi-Fi signals and overlapping Bluetooth signals in order to map someone's actual body movement.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a very kind of like a rudimentary use case of the technology.
Which is wild because that's rudimentary use case of the technology.
Yeah. Because what it's really doing is, let's say you have a base station here and your water is a base station over there. It's pumping a signal out in 360 degrees and registering what a non-disturbed signal looks like. And then it's comparing it and doing the basic math of the difference to give just almost like an acoustic readout of your space.
Right.
Where you or me would be in the space would be disrupting or disturbing that signal. So the disruption pattern becomes information when you're collecting the state of the two fixed pieces over time, several times a second. So what the big hurdle that I had to jump was, okay, I understand, for example, the ARPANET. I went to school, Engineering University 101. The foundational technology that created the internet is what's called the ARPANET.
I did not know that.
Yeah, designed by the Department of Defense somewhere in the late 80s. Tim Berners-Lee, and the whole conversation of who sent the first email. I mean, ask Dr.
What's his name?
Ayadara, Dr. Shiva. Dr. Shiva might have invented email, but he didn't invent the internet. So
that dude cracks me.
I know, right? So
he goes off on people, dude. I know. Oh my gosh.
To his credit and his detriment, that he is very much about speaking his truth, for sure.
Did you watch my episode with him, bro?
Booby fucking Kennedy. Booby. His name is Booby, okay?
And I think if I remember correctly, I tried to correct him a little bit. Like, do you think it's not like a little bit unhelpful and you're off-putting to some people? He interrupted me. He's like, no, I'll tell you why I call him Booby fucking Kennedy. I was like, damn, dude.
Well, you're telling me what you really feel there, Doctor. Okay. But so maybe he invented email, but Tim in the DARPA essentially invented what's called the ARPANET. So for anybody, micro computer science education here. The ARPANET, as it was presented to me, was the incubator for the internet. Hey, we at DARPA and the military have created this test project that between these two universities, we can make a phone call and send information. And boom, we're going to call the public version of it the internet. But the private military version was called the ARPANET. Now, that's not untrue, but what I didn't know until finding Sabrina's work is that the ARPANET wasn't discarded when the internet went live. The internet was built to funnel every piece of traffic through the ARPANET since its inception. The whole point of the internet was to funnel people's light information through the Department of Defense. That's the entire point.
We're talking about other than just like your internet browsing information, your activity online, and your eye movement. You're talking about like your body, though.
Oh, everything.
Everything.
Now, I learned that later. I didn't know that at the time. But yes, I'm talking about everything. Your biosignatures, your keystrokes, your purchase, everything. Some of the stuff we know about, right? Like the purchases and beacons and the different things that they have when it comes to cookies and just all the stuff that they track you on the internet. What I didn't know until more recently is how much bioinformation is available in any given photo. That's a great example. So iCloud. I worked for Apple. I've done techie stuff for a good chunk of my life. And I would always scratch my head like, thank you, Apple. I appreciate the free 5 gigs you give me for my iCloud storage, but I'm not entirely sure why you just feel like giving everybody free gigabytes. Everybody gets a Gmail, 15 gigs. Everybody gets a Dropbox, 2 gigs. Everybody just giving you free gigabytes. And I learned long ago, anytime a product is free, you are the product, period. So I was using Gmail and just Google services, but I was always a bit like, okay, maybe it's just a big data thing. It wasn't until my awareness and my studies regarding the biofield, the human blueprint, just our auric blueprint. And I won't call it Carillion photography, but a mutual friend of ours, Dr. Spencer, he introduced me to the ability, or he was the first person I knew who practiced the ability to scan and identify disturbances in your biofield using just a photo. And I remember being like, excuse me, hello. So wait, just a photo? Like you can, just a picture?
That is Carillion photography though, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And he doesn't call it that, but he did reference that it's essentially nicknamed the same thing. But I asked him, because before I ever worked with him with his machine, I was like, I'm a nerd. I got to know how it works. Please explain. And he was a pretty big open book. So he did explain that every photo, every iPhone picture, there's a tiny amount of light information, just about an inch or so around your whole body, that is the image sensor in your phone capturing your auric field. Now, with regard to light information, everything between red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, or anything in that zone, not ultraviolet or infrared, it's capturing a bit of that auric field and kind of discarding a lot of it with the JPEG, but not all of it. And so I asked him, I said, so, okay, I can send you a digital photo, but should I use a DSLR, a bigger camera? He said, oh, no, iPhone's fine. I go, well, what if I have a Polaroid, the older style cameras, like the kind you have to get developed or some sort of instant developed? He said, oh, yeah, in fact, those work even stronger.
Interesting.
And I go, okay, so hold up. All the Indian folklore, Native American folklore about photo stealing your soul, I said, that's true? He's like, kind of. I mean, it doesn't steal it, but it definitely makes an etheric imprint of it.
Interesting.
And I go, okay, now, first of all, that makes way more sense why Apple would give everybody 5 gigs. Because now, even if you don't post a single picture on social media, they got everything about 5 gigs worth of information. I mean, we're talking JPEGs, right? Thousands, tens of thousands of JPEGs that each contain a little state of your body's blueprint and what you're doing, and how you're doing, I should say, both energetically, health-wise, and everything in between. And so when I started to kind of learn, okay, this tech world, Dr. Jack Cruz talks a lot about the blue light technology and the whole like concentration of people being groomed and taught and educated under this one model, and then these 5, like, honestly, between Bill Gates, the 2 other people who helped start Microsoft, Steve Jobs and Wozniak, and the other, we're talking like 10 people. These were all kids in programs and training and development programs that were kind of loosely associated with one another. But I truly do believe that it was all for a very targeted and specific purpose. And it has a lot to do with aggregating multiple different technologies to coalesce with the Internet of Bodies. It's not like they're out here trying to do something different. And you got the ARPANET over here and DARPA's over here and IARPA's over here and ARPA-H is over here. It's one endeavor. And that endeavor seems to be to capture and harness the human essence and digitize it and tokenize it. And in order to do that, I think they needed everybody to just go along for 20, 30, or 40 years with using this technology without ever knowing, hey, you have this body part that this technology is being primed to interface with. They're going to call it a digital twin, and then they're going to sell you on the fact that this digital twin is some sort of game-changing cool feature, but it's actually like an in silico version of your genetic expression that they're manipulating, and then when you think they're reading your thoughts, they're not actually reading them. Now, not that they can't, but it's a lot more, if you ask me, pattern suggestion, entrainment.
It's wild, though, dude, because I'll think about something that's so off-the-wall random, and maybe their pattern recognition is so good, something that I perceive as randomness, they've literally developed a pattern in me. But the point that I'm getting at is I'll think of something so completely random or hear about it elsewhere away from my phone, right? Knowing for sure that it's not spoken, so they can't literally listen to what I'm saying. And then I'll see an ad for that. Yep. And everyone talks about this phenomenon, dude. It goes beyond like, hey, we talked about that and saw an ad. It's like, bro, I thought about that and saw an ad. And this is where I get all messed up. Is it like, am I having precognition, or is it that thing is literally able to read and observe my biofield, or is it that it's pattern recognition, or is it a combination of all those things? I don't know.
Or the fifth option, it's what I think is happening is suggesting. And then when it gets the auditory or the energetic cue that you picked up on the suggestion, it follows it up with an ad.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So what you perceive as random is actually
something suggested it earlier on subtly, and then I like picked up on it, started singing about. Yeah. That happens all the time where I'll start singing a song and I'm like, wait, why am I singing that? And Kylie was like, I was singing that like 4 hours ago. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize you were.
It's because that person's music label paid DARPA to send it to your brainstem, so it was a hit record, and you thought you was just singing it, and little did you know it was some buttons being pushed.
One quick thing that you said about the biofield and how in Carillion photography you can see this sort of like 1 to 2 inch out from your body sort of subtle imprint, if you will, right? It's interesting because it aligns with Eileen's work as I see it. Obviously, Eileen studies the biofield, but she talks about how the memories and events that are stored in your field that happened most recently are closer to your physical body, and things that are more distant in the past are on the edge of your field. So if this relates to what we're talking about here, it makes sense because it's like the imprint of you that is most recent to the now moment is on the edge of you, right?
Exactly. Precisely.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a better way to determine who's healthy, who's unhealthy, who's thinking this, who's not thinking that, than general traditional data acquisition.
Yeah.
Because half the people you know in your life have iPhones and the other half have Androids. So half of your entire phone list goes to bed every night, and if they don't put their phone in airplane mode, the phone is doing the curation process. And that curation process is about machine learning and figuring out who's in all the photos and all that, and it's doing a backup at the same time, sending it to iCloud. So not only is it saying, hey, we did all the homework for you, but here's who's in the photo and here's what's going on, but it's giving an actual server-side copy of all of those photos. And again, I'm not trying to scare people from using. I got my phone, I got the iCloud enabled. I'd rather have.
Is an iPad sitting right there?
I got an iPad sitting right here. But the point is awareness, because now that I'm aware of it, the mystique and the worry and the concern and the ways that I could protect myself from it are much clearer.
Yeah.
Before I knew any of this stuff, it was like, what do? I gotta just, okay, I won't upload my kids' photos to social media. That way they'll be protected. Well, yeah, from Meta servers, but not from Apple servers. So it just becomes...
Like if you have any pictures of your kids.
At all. Yeah. That are not anything beyond a print.
It doesn't even have to be pictures. I'm sure if like your kids come across the screen and just the camera sees them without taking a picture, it's like that's sufficient.
It's just, I think the name of the game is every biosignature is unique. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter. Like each of these devices, and I say each, but I really mean a accumulating crescendo of all of them, are designed to, both in terms of function and in terms of their long-term goals, identify you, give you a specific number, and then associate that number with a MAC address, a media access control. That's just simply a separate, unique number that can be more readily interfaceable with the existing internet.
Okay.
Because that was the big epiphany when I first found Sabrina's work, is like, holy smokes, so you're telling me that now that I know about this biofield, this is acting like a Wi-Fi antenna. That's crazy because I already knew how this part works and now this works. I just didn't know that as long as you can figure out how to biologically convert, amino acids and peptides and analyte protein sequences into yes or no, on or off, electrical existence or the lack of electrical existence. I knew how that could be. I knew how that works in a digital sense. I just didn't know that, hey, DARPA claims that they put biosensors in people for long enough to be able to guarantee that they can do that. That's what Sabrina introduced me to. And to the fact that this biodigital convergence is full steam ahead. And that what I was taught in school was the Powder Puff Girls baby soft Similac version of what's really going on. Not that it was untrue. It's just here's line 1, and we're over here on line 3,000 when you get to 20 years later. But she really has allowed me to take the reins of her research, apply it to my research and my presentation style, and then help people get from the level that they're on to a much higher understanding by closing that gap a bit with creative ways to present some pretty difficult info. So in the case of Sabrina, eventually we got connected through a mutual friend, got put in a group text. I found which name was hers in the group chat and I went and did the DM. And thankfully, she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you messaged me. I was hoping we could get in touch."
Because you already commented on all her videos and everything, right?
Correct. And I had already done a video or two featuring one of her videos. So she had seen those. And she was kind of like, "I loved your stuff. I loved your take. I think you did a great job explaining it. I'll be happy to help clarify anything." Now, she's kind of a recluse, a relative hermit, so to speak. So I always wanted to be pretty respectful and not just blast her zone up and put a camera up in her face. But having been able to glean information off my friend now, what she's really making me acutely aware of is not too dissimilar from what she speaks about publicly. It's just I get to ask questions and kind of like, okay, so when you said this, what was you really talking about? Explain that a little bit because I don't quite understand. But what it's really got me to understand is, you guys, I think we need to take this biodigital convergence a lot more seriously, because I think that business, market share, and industry are all pointing to this. And y'all can take them Masons and the Jesuits and all the trannies and all the discussion about this hat signals and all this, and y'all can put all that in the chest and up in the attic with the rest of the legacy toys, because now we got PlayStation controllers, drones, and buttons. So you're familiar with Bluetooth.
Yep.
Imagine color my surprise when I found out that the IEEE standardization, the working group.
Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers.
Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. Boom.
IEEE.
Think about the FCC is to communications, as the FDA is to food and drug regulation, as the EPA is to environmental sprays and different, water-based regulations. The CDC is about disease and prevention, quote unquote. The IEEE is the company that sets the standard for every piece of electronics. So we're talking this mic, this cable, that light, this other light, this iPad, your iPad. They've all gone through the IEEE's standardizations department, and they've been given a standard and put in like a bucket of where to place them in terms of what type of device they are. So what I found is that the IEEE, which I had already seen, you look on the back of an iPhone box, see the IEEE number. It was always around. I just never realized how important they were in the biodigital convergence. And what the IEEE does is they give a numerical megahertz, gigahertz, terahertz, whatever, number, identifier, and standard to every piece of electronics. Antenna systems, receiver systems, broadcast systems, mitigation systems, all of it. And so when everybody who might be familiar with a little bit of Wi-Fi might know 802.11. That's the Wi-Fi group. There was 802.11a, then 802.11b came out, which is faster, then 802.11x came out, 802.11ac, and 802.11. All these subdivisions of the 802.11 spec, allowing for more bandwidth and more speed. Imagine my surprise when I found out that the spec for Bluetooth was 802, 802.15.4. And the spec for the human biofield is 802.15.6.
Interesting.
Now, when I first heard that, I just remember being like, okay, so hold on. I'm willing to bet that we have an electrical component to ourselves. But are you sitting here telling me that the same place that defined what Bluetooth is and Wi-Fi has also defined what the human biofield is? This term that just showed up on the NIH after 100 years of not existing there.
Right.
Then it just shows back up, and then y'all standardize it to two sub point. We're talking 802.15. That's the working group is called 802, right? That's everything under the 802 umbrella. Then you have 15, just the subdivision of these personal area networks and wireless body area networks. Then you have this subdivision of the subdivision. Okay, this one's for Bluetooth. Okay, this one's for metamaterials. Okay, this one's for the human biofield. Okay, this one right here is for our terahertz intrabody net. There's all these like really defined sub networks. And that's when I started going like, okay, you guys, so I know none of y'all are computer nerds. Not all of y'all are computer nerds, but as a resident pocket protector president of 1996 and 97, as a computer nerd, I can tell you it's a problem for me knowing how wireless, just RF works. Like it's a very, very rudimentary example. So you go in your car, you have your FM radio, and it goes from 88.1 to 107.9. And it's honestly, when you break that radio apart, especially your older cars, it's like a giant magnet with a bunch of copper wrapped around it and like a dipole that's kind of attenuating where on this magnetic pole 88.1 is, or 95.1, or the hip hop station or the country station. All of these mean is the signal, the antenna over across town is sending a very unique signal at 88.1 kilohertz. And that 88.1 kilohertz goes wirelessly through the air for several miles until your car antenna, once attuned to 88.1, will pick up the signal that's being sent. But everybody who's ever built this stuff knows that when you turn that knob and it stops clicking, that doesn't mean that if you were to remove the thing that prevents the knob from turning, that it wouldn't keep turning and that the dipole wouldn't keep going south beyond 88.1 or beyond 107.9. So I'm going, if you're telling me that Bluetooth is 802.15.4, it does not take a giant stretch of the imagination to understand that any one of these mouse, keyboards, headphones, Wi-Fi speakers, all this Bluetooth stuff around is physically already capable of extending into ranges that interact with the human biofield.
Real quick on that. So when I was doing very, 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 I want to be very clear, rudimentary research on the human biofield, because I've come to the conclusion that there is definitely some form of communication happening not only between us and these devices, but between us and nature and us and each other, right? That is quote unquote energetic, for lack of a better term. But when I was doing research on the biofield, according to the mainstream, there is not sufficient, at least based on modern scientific standards, there's not something like radio frequencies coming off of the body. Therefore, we don't know how there could possibly be any form of communication coming off the body. And they say, well, there might be some more, quote, subtle energies that we haven't figured out yet that aren't in the electromagnetic spectrum.
Well, they are in the EM spectrum. They're just not in the radio frequency spectrum.
Okay, but...
Because everything's in the EM spectrum, but even light and sunlight and stuff like that.
If I remember correctly, when I was looking into this, that they've looked at the known electromagnetic spectrum, and aside from the heart giving off a certain, I forget what it is within that electromagnetic spectrum, they haven't found that there's something coming off of the human beings that would indicate that the human being can communicate. Now, that's not to say that means it's true. I'm just saying what they say, and I could be incorrect in my assessment of that. So they came up with this other category. Even in the NIH's definition of the biofield, it was something to the effect of electromagnetic and other energy fields or something like that.
That might be true. Like my hunch is that we're talking more about piezoelectricity and like other
scalar waves,
and just other categories. Imagine too, if they've redacted the whole the whole biofield from the NIH. It's very easy to redact the categories of electromagnetic
Yeah.
identification that would be most appropriate to the biofield. Scalar being this term that involves multiple dimensions, so to speak,
Right.
of it, whereas gamma or microwave radiation or RF radiation are just different zones along this.
Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
Yep.
So Wi-Fi is even radio frequency spectrum.
Is it really? I didn't know it was radio frequency spectrum. I thought it was within the electromagnetic spectrum, but extended before beyond radio frequency.
So the way I've always understood it is that magnetism is the inverse result when you introduce electricity into a scene, and electricity is the inverse result when you introduce magnetism into a space.
That's true, because anything that has an electrical current produces a magnetic
Magnetism,
field.
and anything that's got a magnetic property. Quartz is a great example. Not that it's magnetic, but it has a property, piezoelectric property, so you can create magnetism or electricity.
Yep.
So my thought is that if this is a spectrum and it goes from A to Z, we are given terms, and the terms end at a certain number, but the spectrum keeps going past that number. So we have gamma rays, X-rays, light, sound, radio frequency, and within radio frequency is Wi-Fi, Bluetooth.
Got it.
3G, 4G, 5G. Not until you get into the upper half of 5G do you exit radio frequency and get into microwave.
Got it.
So microwave is just the next zone up, and the millimeter wave is a microwave radiation. So it's saying by the time these wavelengths hit a millimeter, we don't call it radio frequency anymore. We call it microwave.
Got it.
You get them into a nanometer, it's called gamma. Or, it's all just different Greek ways to explain the same energy.
Got it.
So my hunch is that they just uncategorize the sections they don't want to talk about.
Got
it. The biofield itself is a great example. Then at Confluence, I meet a lady whose practice is auric restoration and clearing people's auras from traumas. And I get to talking with her because she heard us talking about biofield. She's like, oh, hey, I want to talk. It was great. Shout out to Confluence. But she explains that the aura is the blueprint layer, the base layer of the biofield. It's like what everything goes back to pull from to rebuild.
That makes sense.
Is the aura.
Yeah.
And that the extra further layers are the other layers of the biofield, the emotional layer, the spiritual layer, the physical layer. And so what I'm coming to learn is everything is woo-woo and magic until you give it a ratified number. You know what I'm saying? Wi-Fi would have been magic 100 years ago. Now it's called everybody's reality.
Right.
So I think that our human connection, and I remember, maybe you remember 2023 or so when I first got into this research, I would be calling, Alec, okay, I got this theory, bro. Okay, you know how you be always talking about no virus, the whole no virus thing? I was like, I think I know what they're doing. In a biological sense, a virus is this really specifically defined thing that people such as Alec and the doctors and scientists that you've worked with have collectively come to disprove. If you haven't seen the deep dive on that, it's called The End of COVID. I'm sure they can link to it somewhere below. I don't know how that works.
You're intimately involved in that too, so shout out to you.
There we go. But what I knew from a computer science background is that a computer virus is very much a real thing. Now, a computer virus is literally a nickname. It's not some magical piece of biology that gets into the computer. It's a nickname for code written to do something different than the designer's function within a system. So you have hardware and you have software. Your physical Dell or Lenovo or Apple, that's the hardware. The Mac OS 10 or Windows, whatever, that's the software. The software is written to interface with the hardware. The hardware will often come with certain hard-coded baseband or BIOS-based instruction. These are things that are kind of software built on a chip that's physically in the computer that's not subject to the normal operating system. But when I began to learn just about the simplified way that they've taken the basic computer science and applied it to human biology, that's where this fireworks started going off in my understanding and in my discussions, because I pretty quickly began going, Alec, okay, the giant Achilles heel that you and your team are chomping away at every time you say there's no virus, not right. The question you're asked the most is, okay, well then how did my aunt get sick? Or why is it that when I went to so-and-so's house, I left and I had a sore throat? And your very astute answer has always been, well, it could be 1,000 different reasons we can cover these things. I was the one going, hey, guess what? I'm not on TV, so I can guess. I could just surmise on the phone, and I could be wrong, and it don't matter. I'm going to tell you what I think it is. And what I really think it is a stopgap. So imagine that if from the foundational inception of biological virology, that was around the same time that the Biofield was removed from the NIH. And the purpose was always to develop software that rewrites the creator's code of your body, which effectively is absolutely a computer virus. Now, again, that's a nickname based off the popular sentiment of a biological virus, based on, viral interact, even a video going viral, like same concept. But I would call Alec. I'm like, Alec, this, like, the thing that you talk about is the void, but this lady's information is filling the void, because what she's saying is, hey, they are making a real virus. It's just not a real biological virus. It's a real computer virus. Mm-hmm. And a real computer virus is not anything other than just code written to do something different than the individual. To disrupt, or not even to disrupt. It's only a virus when you call it malware and it's bad.
Got it.
You see what I'm saying?
It's fundamentally metaphysical is what we're talking about here.
Exactly. And it's meant to do something different than the designer's intent. So if you write software for this iPad that says when you hit home button, go home, and I write other software that says when you hit home button, pull up a porn site, that's a virus because of what it does. Yeah. But the second I say, as soon as you hit home button, sing happy birthday to Alec and give him $1 million, that's not a virus, but it technically is a virus. You know what I'm saying? It's only a virus because of the connotation. But at the end of the day, it's code rewritten against the initial designer's intent. That is what I think that the wireless systems through the Biofield are doing to the human body. Yeah. And in that regard, this replaces this biological virus void that you and your team are pointing out is not based on anything empirical science based. It now puts something there that's concrete, that has a paper trail, that has a lot more eyeballs and money focused on it than the myriad of other potentials that it could be, even though why so-and-so got sick could be one of those other potentials.
Yeah, it could still be a number of other things, but this is another huge missing piece.
It's where all the money's going. Yeah. It's why you go and listen to a Verizon earnings call like, we're broke. AT&T, we didn't make as much money this year as we did last year. T-Mobile, well, we bought Sprint, so now we're broke. But yet everybody's spending millions of dollars for 5G. It's like, I don't know a single person complaining that their 4G was too slow. Right. So why are y'all out here spending money that y'all clearly don't have from all your earnings calls that you say you're not making? It just doesn't make any sense. Then when I learned, they're actually building out this singular global system. Okay, now that makes sense. That's why you just shove faster internet into everybody's face when nobody needs it. But not what y'all are talking about, because if I'm a business and I'm trying to make my customers' experience better, putting towers every 10 yards doesn't do that. Okay, but making a ubiquitous global top-down cybernetic like wireless sensor network system. Now that's where we're talking internet 3.0, web 3. That's like the future trajectory. And that makes sense why these telecom companies do that, despite it being financially, it doesn't make any sense for them to do it financially.
I totally see what you're saying. And I have so many different questions. Oh my God, my brain's going all over the place. But one of the questions that I have is when we talk about it rewriting the code of you, we're not talking about something with permanence. We're talking about something that in that moment it can temporarily reconfigure the software of you to, I look at it like this. Even all of this discussion aside, the expression of who we are, we're in this intricate dance at all times between the food we consume, between the things that we pick up on metaphysically, the conversations we have, the thoughts that we think, the feelings that we feel, the non-native EMFs we're exposed to even without getting into this stuff, the just the variety of things in our environment. And that dance is our soul is trying desperately to express fully through this physical being. And I call our biofield, for lack of a better term, our soul within the context of a body. And that could be incorrect, but that's where I've come to understand that our biofield is the soul within the context of the body. Right?
I mean, that's honestly a great way to put it. Maybe you could say that the biofield is the most acute way to identify or perceive the soul within the body.
Fair.
But it's the same general conclusion. Yeah,
that's a good way to say it. And we're in this dance with other fields, all those things that I just named, interacting with us for better and for worse, or everything in between, and either inhibiting the full expression of our soul through our body or helping the whole
facilitate.
Yep, exactly.
And bring that into coherence.
Exactly. So this is just another layer of that. And I think that when we talk about this being able to rewrite that code, I think it's really just causing fuzziness or another hindrance to the full expression of our soul through our body.
I think that
would that be a good way to, like, a fair way to frame it?
I would definitely agree with that. I just think that, at least from my friend Mrs. Wallace, what she explains is that on an extreme, this is all like a sliding scale, right? You could just, some people are just under generalized AI managed, like, acute management with systems, not targeted. Other people, they got their eyes on you and they target you. So somebody got a PlayStation controller and zooming right at you.
Yeah.
The body is the most regenerative, healing re-expression. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir on this. So I think what happens is the wireless systems via our digital twin or via direct entrainment are suggesting cellular states at the subatomic level. It's the same thing that Carrie Bennett was saying.
Got it.
Dr. Bennett?
Yep. Carrie Bennett.
When I saw that
She's not a doctor, but she would definitely thank you for that.
Well, she helped understand. She helped educate me.
She's awesome.
Because what she really pointed out when I saw that episode that you did with her about the exclusion zone water and the negative charge and the cancerous cells having the low negative, not able to stay coherent because their charge is too low, so then they divide. That's when I'm going, okay, now what Sabrina's talking about, this is a great example, because she's constantly saying phase and phage states. So imagine, let's use a real simple thing. I got water, you got water. H2O, hydrogen, two hydrogen atoms, and an oxygen atom. All my chemistry, physics nerds, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I can remember, those two hydrogen atoms are held together by a covalent bond. And that covalent bond is two atoms of a particular type, hydrogen being held together with an electron, or y'all can get into the nitty-gritty of how. But imagine that at the state of just water being held together is a tiny piece of piezoelectric and or static electricity. And that any antenna in here, once attuned properly, can blast a signal that disrupts that bond.
Yeah.
Now, that was when 5G was first coming out. It was stated everywhere that this particular zone within the 5G range is uniquely problematic for iodine and water in particular. But without getting into the weeds on the specific numbers and frequencies, just imagine that if we're talking molecules and cells, every molecule is supported by electrons and protons, and the phase of that electron, or the phage, Phage, of that state of those collections of electrons remaining in balance. Coherent, what did you say? Not easy water, but structured, not structured water. What was the other word?
The exclusion zone.
Not the exclusion zone.
Fourth phase water.
You made the distinction between like the easy water, fourth phase water being inside, but when it's out here,
it's just coherent water. I say coherent water.
So coherent water.
It can't be structured water because it's not a gel. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So the coherent state of the water is about forming the lattice very uniformly of the H2O. But there are electric machines that help. I mean, you can get manual ones, but there are, like the Homeopathy is a good example, water structuring machines that you plug into a wall and turn the on switch. So what I have had to adjust my thinking is that at the subatomic, at the, what did she say, the quantum level, quantum being defined not like Hollywood defines it, but as that energetic layer that's just underneath or below the molecular level. Any button in the remote can disrupt and change a neuron by simply changing the phase or phase of the electron. I can take this water and make it free radical hydrogen and oxygen by splitting those covalent bonds. And that's an electrical physics conversation. It's not got nothing to do with water, nothing to do with Illuminati, none of this stuff. So what I've had to learn to do is go, okay, the conversation is siloed between Jesuits, Masons, and trannies, the cabal, everything being Russia or China's fault. And then what nobody seems to be talking about is the whole technocracy Elon Musk conversation. And I look around and I go, everything is becoming more and more technical.
Yes.
We are in a tech-centric everything. You can't get out of anything. Two-factor authentication. You got this. You need you want to log in? Well, you need another device in order to prove that it's you, so we can log you in. So you got to have two pieces of toys just to log into one of them. So because I would see that trend, I was always kind of like, well, I like computers and computers are part of my life. I just didn't really understand, hey, you guys, they're not trying to get you to embrace technology for anything healthy. They're trying to get you to embrace technology as a stopgap between you becoming that technology. These wireless earbuds are great right up until you don't even need that because of all the EMFs. You can just get the direct brain audio cortex HD super duper premium Spotify account. Just as long as you're in signal of a satellite, you can hear music wherever. Better quality than any speaker system. No, it's waterproof. But the whole purpose is to use the media division of what they do to brand this all to be very enticing. And that's where I think education is helpful, because I like toys and tools just like the next guy. I just have purposefully pumped the brakes on certain technologies that I just know are like, I probably shouldn't fall in love with this because I can already tell I'm probably going to need to not rely on it too much moving forward, and I don't want to get myself too comfortable with this. So having learned about the biofield's existence, what it's capable of, the human body, I don't know if you knew this, I would consider is one of the most powerful supercomputers to ever exist. And as somebody who used to build computers and motherboards and take them apart, RAM and all this, I would always say historically, computers are actually stupid humans.
Bro.
They have us thinking that to be smart, you need to merge with the computer. But when I look at a computer, I look at a very simplified concept of a way to flow energy around, which is exactly what a human is. Now, computers are much faster at very singular tasks, but non-singular tasks like identify the facial features of somebody that you recognize in this crowd of 1 million people, like your wife, for example. A human body can see, oh, there's Kylie right there. A computer would be like, scanning. Grrr. I mean, it might be running 50 teraflops per second, but it's using basic math and deduction to do something the human essence can do just like that. Yeah. And so what I think they're trying to do is introduce this conversation of carbon credits and green points and make you aware of how unsustainable Bitcoin mining and blockchain and all that is, so that you become responsible for mining your own data. You are your own Ethereum's big mining process, biologically speaking. The biofield is essentially just your Wi-Fi antenna. It's just what's getting the data in and out. The human mitochondria, cerebral spinal fluid, and central nervous system are really the functional Northbridge RAM computer and processor of the bigger system. But it's about getting something in you that can identify or interface with their external systems.
Are we talking about like legit storing, like using us as data storage?
Oh yeah. Do you know you can probably fit everything you ever put on the internet in just your pinky toe? You can take one.
I mean, it makes sense, like especially if you hear what Gerald Pollock has talked about with Easy Water. If I remember correctly, he's talked about how some people are trying to work on different ways to store data and using Easy Water as a means to store data.
Yeah. So yeah, 100%. That's exactly what it is, because
God dang, man.
Water carries this information. You're coming to these conclusions in your research. Part of your discussions with Dr. Pollock and others have helped inform me of what I'm learning. But I really think that what we're looking at is a very simple and complex thing. I think water is really everything.
Everything, bro. Everything.
It is the ether. If
everything.
you ask me, the Higgs field is a red herring.
Quote, quantum field, also red herring. It's water.
Correct.
It's
now,
water,
it might be a different way to word an expression of something else, but it's definitely a generalized red herring because you can oversimplify it to something we're more familiar with. You don't have to introduce the Higgs boson and then
all this complex mathematics. Exactly. It's like, no, it just makes sense. It's water permeates all. It's literally what I say in my talks. Water permeates all facets of reality. If what Veda Austin is indicating is true, if what Dr. Gerald Pollock is indicating is true, what does that say about us and our relation to reality in relation to each other, even from across the world?
Even when I was a kid growing up in the church reading Genesis 1. Do you remember what Genesis 1 says regarding to water? Because I was always like, as a kid, like, okay, well, God made everything. I believe it, but like, who made water? Like, what do you mean, Chris? Like, well, go back and read Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And I always go, okay, so if he said, let there be light, then the water was there before the light was. So who made the water? Chris, shut up. Stop asking them questions. Go to the back. Go color. Go run around. They didn't have the answers. And it's not like it made me disbelieve in God, but it does stand as another piece of evidence to say that even before light existed, water existed.
Yeah.
And maybe water in its plasmonic state can be a conduit for this subsequent creation that we call light. Which at the end of the day is just energy inside of a medium expressed through a zone of the spectrum that we can give a term to called light. And to your point, there was something you mentioned earlier that I wanted to go back to, because you said, from what you gather, when these systems are trying to change our cells, this is like a temporary thing. They're trying to affecting something, and it's not a permanent thing.
Yeah, it's not permanence. It's not permanently changing the software.
So as far as I know, that's correct. But that's why I think that's why they're after that God particle.
Right.
So I think that we're looking at a true assault given faulty names and nomenclature so that nobody in the industry that was partially helping crowdsource that assault knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, and isn't that par for the course with every person we've ever heard? I was working for the government. They hired me. I was young and green. I was good at what I did, but I didn't know how evil they were. And now that I'm older, I realize I wasn't signing up. I was signing up for something I didn't realize.
Right.
That's every single story we've ever heard.
Every story.
So I think that what we're looking at is the body is regenerative, and somewhere somebody's behind a Wizard of Oz button and they go, I know the body's regenerative. We need to figure out how to hijack that regeneration process.
Got it.
The other thing that Sabrina helped me understand is that any of this extra paranormal, extrasensory perception, or any of the biofield related gifts that people have are not a result, or not exclusively a result, of them being augmented in order to be able to do this. The name of the game has really been more about identifying humans' true potential.
Yes.
Subjugating that, putting that on the internet, like injecting or inserting something in you so that your natural perception is copied onto the net.
Yep.
And then giving you access to your own abilities through some subscription model.
Yeah, I remember I was watching the recent discussion between her and Eileen, and I don't remember exactly the product she mentioned, but she mentioned something that you can get on Amazon or something like this that measures your like brain activity, something like that. A product that she was basically saying, this is simply just taking the technology. When I say technology, your body, your biotechnology, not the technology that human beings have invented, the technology that God created, this technology that we are walking around existing in, and selling it back to you in the form of technology created by man, because most people don't recognize or realize this technology is innate to us.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going on. And now we're at the point of where they're going, okay, all the R&D is done. All the private sales are done. We want to go full scale global with this. We need our media department to sell it as the metaverse, or as MetaQuest 3, the Black Mirror version where you just get the little dot on your temple. All of these things are like, that's what the Hollywood half is for. And I used to, having spent over a decade in Hollywood, I approached this whole podcast with this perspective, like, listen, I'm not a virologist or an epidemiologist, but I can tell you one thing. I do know TV, okay? And every single one of y'all are hearing what y'all are hearing filtered through my industry. So unless y'all are at the lab reading the test results, or you're standing at the press conference, everything you're seeing about any of this virus debate or the pandemic debate is being filtered through the media industry.
Yeah.
Because a lot early on, I was like, well, you're not a doctor. What makes you qualified to talk about this stuff? The fact that I help present this stuff, and nobody who's talking to you about it has done that without going through my industry.
Right.
And that filtration process is where all the lies went. I don't watch MSNBC or Rachel Maddow, but I've seen all the clips, and she's like, you get this vaccine, you will not get the virus. And I believe that she actually thought that. Why? Because she was being told bad information. I read the same Pfizer study that she could have read, but The difference is I came to my own conclusion because I'm reading the information without any filter through it.
Yeah.
Everybody else, whether you're a newscaster or anybody below, your information is being filtered through some other medium. And I think that medium, the media medium, is the illusion. That's where all the lies and the deception come around. Because did Charlie Kirk die? Probably. How? I don't know. I think I know, but I could be wrong. My eyes have lied to me before. And people who are actively trying to deceive me have a pretty good track record of being able to do that if I'm not being super vigilant about what it is I'm looking at. So all that to say, I think that when they do these assaults where they're suggesting or sending signals to people that affect their health, that the name of the game is creating a permanent discoherent state.
Yeah.
Because you do detox a lot of this stuff. You do reset. If you actually have gratitude in your heart and love in your mind and oxygen in your lungs and good water in that will win over their systems. Every time. Minus some sort of procedure or some invasive thing.
Yeah.
But I think that they know that. And so the name of the game isn't about a one and done. It's about creating a wireless sensor network cereal bowl that you live in 24/7, that your body just gets used to because you don't live on the planet Voltron, so you can't escape it. But it allows for our baseline to be much lower than what it should.
Yeah.
So you're normal. Oh, I got a headache. I'm not feeling. That's considered normal. Then you got to take something or pop something, smoke something just to go up from what should have been a higher baseline.
Yeah.
So my hunch is that it's all about like thinking about, okay, if they're treating us as inhumane, then what they're really trying to do is make us effective computers on the server. You're a human by saying, I'm choosing to use my human sensibilities to transcend this tragedy, like in the case of Charlie. Where, to your earlier point, the worst elements are being brought out of people because that's not what's being entrained or suggested.
Right.
It's the opposite of that.
100%.
And people are responding to that.
Yep.
And good people can override it, but the average guy, good as he might think isn't equipped to fight what they clearly don't even know is being thrown their way.
Hey y'all, I'm here with Melissa Kupsch from Remedy Academy of Homeopathy. We are so stoked here at the Way Forward to be partnering with Melissa and Remedy in order to spread the message of homeopathy across the world, and also to partner on the eventual development of healing centers across the United States.
People are pretty quickly coming to realize that frequency is the future of medicine. We are witnessing the great resurgence of homeopathy right now. We're really moving away from that suppressive medical model. Whether it's for eczema, asthma, hormones, fertility, anxiety, depression, trauma, whatever it is, it all starts as energy in the person's field first. If we change our field, we can completely change our life. Our 2-year academy is open worldwide to anyone who wants to become a homeopath. We've got 5 lecturers and we currently have over 500 students enrolled, which is record numbers in our field. A career in homeopathy is amazing for anyone who wants flexibility in their work and who wants to be valuable in creating this new world. We have stay-at-home parents enrolled, we have ex-medical professionals, grandparents signed up who want to learn how to heal their grandchildren and pass on that invaluable knowledge. We even have husband and wife teams. So my husband enrolled in the course with no prior knowledge of health as a background, and he is loving it.
Kylie is also enrolled as well, so my partner is, and she's so stoked to become a homeopath and to be helping to spread this message across the world.
The thing that we hear from so many of our students is, I found my thing. Homeopathy is the key. We harness frequencies from nature and we alter the field of all creations. So if anybody wants to join us or they want to know more about it, they can visit our website.
Yeah, and all that information will be in the show notes. So if you want to learn more about Remedy Academy, also Remedy Collective, also some of the homeopathic products that they have, please just head to the show notes, all of that. Most healthcare today operates on an outdated mechanistic model, treating the body like a battlefield rather than a self-healing system. You wait months for an appointment only to receive a rush diagnosis that labels you rather than truly understanding your unique health. Even in holistic health, many practitioners rely on endless lab tests and supplement protocols, addressing symptoms instead of the root cause. And the result? Another prescription or supplement regimen that merely suppresses or masks symptoms rather than facilitating true healing, whether the imbalance was physical, emotional, energetic, or a mix of all three. And that's why Dr. Tom Cowan co-founded the New Biology Clinic, to offer something radically different. As one of the most respected natural health doctors in the world, Dr. Cowan has spent decades challenging conventional medicine and advancing a deeper understanding of human biology, water, and natural health. His work isn't just about rejecting the mainstream, it's about offering a more truthful, biologically coherent approach for healing. The New Biology Clinic recognizes that health isn't about fighting disease, it's about restoring balance. You're not a diagnosis, you're an individual with a unique story, and healing should honor that. With virtual consultations available worldwide, the clinic offers a flat-rate monthly membership that gives you direct access to practitioners who take the time to actually listen. Members also get exclusive health live streams, a resource library, and live sessions covering everything from Biofield tuning and breathwork to movement and meditation, all designed to support whole body healing. And if you're not ready for a membership, you can book a one-time appointment, sign up for an enrichment-only membership for the healing modalities alone, or schedule a free connection session with one of the care team members to see how the New Biology Clinic can help in your specific situation. This isn't about keeping you dependent on doctors. It's about making you sovereign over your health. Head to newbiologyclinic.com and use code THEWAYFORWARD, and that's spelled The Way, F-O-R-W-A-R-D, for $50 off account activation, or just head to the show notes for more info. If you're a member of The Way Forward, email hello@thewayforward.com for $150 off. Your body already knows how to heal, and New Biology Clinic helps you remember.
As I've come to understand the way that they're trying to essentially just get everybody part of the same sensor network system, because that's really, like, I think that they know how regenerative the human body is. I think that the point is to keep you depressed, mentally not doing the mental half. I mean, you know, psychosomatic. Yeah. What's the opposite of psychosomatic?
You could Maharishi effect.
The Maharishi.
Well, you could say on the individual level placebo effect, essentially. Okay, but then, I mean, biology of belief. I don't know what to call it on the individual level outside of just the placebo effect, having something induce the state psychosomatically. I think it would still be psychosomatics, just in a positive context.
Exactly. Positively expressed psychosomatic situation.
Yeah.
I think that they know the second you have optimism and you stand up and I am healed, I am whole, that actually defeats their systems.
Yep.
You know, I think it hit me one day. Take, for example, the radio. Like, okay, let me back up. If you live in a city, and part of why I think the smart city and the urban agenda is really what they're pushing, away from natural, away from the woods, away from the water and the earth. Imagine that the FCC, who's working with the IEEE, gives 10 radio stations their protocols. And you like to tune to the hip hop station or the rock station. And when you hit play in Charlotte's 97.9, Power 98, it's the hip hop station. You turn to Power 98 and you and a good million or so other homeboys and homegirls are listening to literally. So imagine every computer has a clock in there and they all have these crystals, quartz, specifically quartz, that help regulate the exactness of the clock. Mm-hmm. And it hit me one day. I'm going, okay, if we're mostly water and I can pull up to a red light and all the black, brown, and halfway clued in folks are listening to the same hip hop record in my immediate vicinity, at least 100 people, that's casting a signal that all 100 of our bodies and all the people not listening to us, same station, are subtly feeling.
Yep.
Now, if you're timing that with internet protocol or data crunching or biocomputing that needs certain time interval, everything is really acutely based around the computer's clock. So a really fast megahertz is called a clock. Your clock speed's really fast. You get up to the gigahertz and you've increased the clock speed, or you overclock the computer. I think they're in the process of overclocking and underclocking the human body so that everybody's on the same exact clock. So that the, like in a computer network, in a networked computer sense, all the computers each have their own clock, but there's usually a master clock button or a feature through Ethernet or through a separate cable that allows them to all be synchronized to the same time zone. And it's what makes distributed data processing more efficient. I think that they're trying to do that with the human data processing through things like the radio and the internet, serving up a million, maybe in New York or LA, a million actual bodies listening to the same quantized pulse. Because now with auto-tune and modern pop music, everything's right on beat. There's no deviations, no human drums.
Yeah.
It's boosh, 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 boosh. Just dance, wanna be okay. Just dance. It's very quantized.
Yeah.
And I've started to come to believe that the people who run this world are not interested in entertaining anybody. They're not interested in giving you a Lady Gaga track because Lady Gaga's hot and Jimmy Iovine really wants her to succeed. It's because that genre of dance music, just like hip hop and all the other popular genres, is effective at quantization of a social body. Even if we're talking electromagnetically, because even if you're not listening to the radio, that signal's still being sent out.
Yep.
FM is still going straight through our body right now as we speak. AM, Wi-Fi, all of the rest. So I honestly think that their goal is to say, hey, we're going to redact any sort of cultural piece of information you could ever use to undo our system. We're going to then encourage you to get the most updated version of our system under the premise that's going to save your grandma and everybody who might have eaten a bat or pangolin in the wet market in China 5 years ago. But that was all a bunch of BS. And the reason behind it was like, by any means necessary, just get the new software.
This is a good point. This is actually one of the things that I wanted to bring up was, it's twofold. Millimeter wave technology and 5G, and also talk about the COVID shots. Which one do you want to go into first?
You pick.
Okay. Since you brought it up, let's go into the COVID shots first. Because you got to be real here. This is multifaceted, and there's multiple elements, multiple pieces of context. But I just interviewed Dr. Sherry Tenpenny a couple months ago. And paraphrase, but she is generally of the position that if you took the COVID shots, unless you got a saline injection, your body is destined to fail at some point. And I pushed back on that. And I was like, I don't agree. I think the body, again, is self-healing, self-regulating, and maybe this is a novel poison. Maybe it's more, quote, poisonous, toxic than the other shots that are available. But I believe in the power of the human body, and I believe it can heal. What that leads me to is I do understand that the likelihood that some of the shots that were given out are saline injections is, I'd consider that. That's definitely possible, if not plausible, right? But with that, we can't deny the reality that a lot of the people who got the shots, for whatever reason, given that context that I just shared, are doing just fine at this point. But I also recognize, on the flip side of that there was an uptick in cardiac events, uptick specifically in athletes. I don't remember if I talked about it on the show, but someone came up with a plausible explanation. It was actually Mike Wilkerson. It wasn't on the show. It was just in a conversation I had with him when I was with him in Serbia, talking about how graphene hydroxide or graphene oxide or some other nanoparticulate creates microcuts inside of our blood vessels that then for athletes, when they're trying to, move quickly and our heart is needing to move blood quickly and through circulation, it just fails in that process. With athletes, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, all that to say, we can't deny the reality that for a lot of people who are in the health freedom sort of truther space that were claiming, if you get the shot, there's going to be hundreds of millions of people that are all just dropping dead at some point. That didn't happen. No. It did not happen. Yes, there was an uptick. Yes, I agree that the shots are poisonous. I want to be very clear because I don't want people to take what I'm saying out of context.
Especially now that we know you're a tranny as well.
Especially now that we know I'm a tranny.
That was a joke. He has. I'm hoping a penis. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I'm gonna take Kylie's word for it. He got 3 evidence of the fact.
I'm just trying to figure out where all these kids came from.
Yeah, me too.
Hey. But on that note, what I think it's more related to at this point, yes, they're poisonous, yes, they're toxic, is getting this stuff into our bodies that help boost our signal, if you want to call it that.
That's a fair way. That's a very astute way to put it. That is essentially what I think is happening. I believe that when AZT was being rolled out in the early 80s, this was a rudimentary version of this. So I need people who are listening to understand, ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. If you're going to be if you're going to sit there and say, I want to inject my magic juice into the world, you're going to do two things. You're going to have practice before, and I think you're going to do real science. So while that clinical trial was junk science, I truly do believe they had a control group, because I think that the mechanism of action is wireless, remote start, so to speak. And so the saline placebo group was a necessary, true global control group. Because that's my whole thing, is like, when you're a mad scientist, you're still a scientist. Yeah. You're not just going to like, I'm pretty sure I can control the world with, oops, it didn't work. Right. Either they all died or none of them died. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I have moved outside of the thinking that this is a bioweapon. I don't think that it's a bioweapon. I think you could say that glyphosate or fluoride is a bioweapon if the only purpose was to administer it to kill people, but it's not. It's to make food, last in preservative shelves, and to own a sector of the cropping industry. Yep. So there's a bunch of other reasons, because killing people is generally pretty easy to do. Not that I advocate that you should, but I truly think that what we're looking at, and the way Sabrina words it, is a cybernetic interface, a bio-cyber interface. So to your point about wanting to define terms, anything biological is bio, anything cybernetic or essentially digital is under the umbrella of cyber, especially as it relates to the interface or the internet. And I do believe that what we were looking at was a dump load, a vial with 1 billion nano Lego bricks. Now, I'm using very basic terms and rounded numbers because it's not about the molecular. It's not a science discussion. It's just trying to get people to move out of this, hey, if you took this, you're going to die, into, hey, let's actually really get down to the bottom of how this works, both the way they say it works and the way that we actually know it works with the whole Japanese biodistribution study and all the stuff that don't support the mainstream narrative. I do believe that what we're looking at is the next evolution of a bio-cyber interface. They can already access people with their generic biofield and nothing more. It's a unique number. Your heartbeat is just as unique as your fingerprint. Because if you ask me, in the water of your mother's womb, as your heart is beating, that resonance is the cymatic. Your fingerprint is the cymatic expression of your heartbeat in water.
Whoa, I've never thought of it like that before. That is dope.
And to the same point that everybody's fingerprint is unique, so is your actual resonance. Yeah. And all you're looking at is the cymatics of that. That's why I think also the people who can read the finger, read hands, that's what they're identifying. It's like a simplified way of identifying your field. See what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, it makes sense.
Because your field is
It's fractal. It's fractal.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow.
So I think that what we're dealing with is a vial full of salt water for the experimental group and full of unactivated bio bricks, nanoscopic size bio bricks housed inside what's called the lipid nanoparticle. And to that part of the science, they were being a little bit verbose. Hey, you guys, we couldn't get this spike protein to stay stable long enough, so we had to invent this brand new technology. Y'all want to say mRNA isn't new? Well, technically it failed every single time we tried to do it until we figured out that we can create a fake fat and stick what any payload we want to in this fake fat. And that's what allows it to cross the blood-brain barrier and enter the cellular membrane wall and get into the nucleus of the cell is this LNP, this lipid nanoparticle. And all we were told is instructions for spike protein. Now, I think that the instructions for spike protein were externally suggested to the not self-assembling, but externally stimulatable assembling biobricks. So everybody got a same thing. It's like you got a dump truck of Legos. That was it. If that dump truck was not aspirated properly and went straight into your bloodstream, the systems and the way that the Lego bricks are designed to self-assemble self-assembled too quickly or in too critical of an area, and they create a blockage. In the case of athletes, we're talking, to your friend's point, I do believe that it's making these little vascular cuts, but I think that athletes are just, the clock is moving more quickly, more frequently, because they're in practice and they're in games on a regular basis. And I think that the point isn't, hey, get this injection and die. The point is, get this injection and be a useful computer node that we don't have to do 50,000 things to connect to. And that you can't just stand up and smile and hug your wife and our connection is broken, or play with your kids or do some qigong. And now we got to like redial in. We don't want to have to do all that. We want to hit one button and connect. And that's what this was about. And it was about creating a system that is like, we can look at the inside of an iPhone and we can see a logic board, a motherboard, and it's chips and wires and like little pathways where the electricity flows. And I want people to imagine that if you were to take it off this piece of silicone and stick it on top of some fat that you scrape off of a marbled T-bone steak, it's the same exact functional thing that we're talking about, using galvanic skin electricity, intracellular piezoelectricity, kinetic electricity, thermal pressure and electricity, chakra-based, almost like the way your blood is going down one side and up one side to kind of orient everything properly. And collectively, those systems make a internal motherboard. And that internal motherboard has enough unique, half made of you, half made of Pfizer or Moderna, cellular anomalies that themselves have unique signatures. And that is your biosensors. That's what's actually connecting. Now, again, I'm speaking a little broad because the point here is to illustrate this, and then people can go and dive into the nitty gritty about exactly how it works. But I really think that what we're looking at in the case of that vaccine is more of an operating system. Just like Catherine Austin Fitts essentially said, she's not the only one, but she was the first one I heard to use the term.
What's her name? Alison McDowell. She hasn't said that specifically about the vaccine, but she says that all of this is more about the Internet of Bodies and Internet of Things, if I remember correctly.
Precisely. Yeah. And Alison McDowell comes from the IARPA, or ARPA-H rather, side of things. So, I didn't know that. Yeah, there's a lot we can tangent on there, but the point here is simply that what we're like, I want people to sit with the reality, sit with this random guy sitting across from Alec that you may or may not have heard of, saying, having spent time in the media industry and in Hollywood, it is my professional opinion that there are very few fools and idiots at the top. I was around heads of state, celebrities, and none of them were dumb. Like, none of them. They were all like, I'm pretty smart, but they were all like just as smart, if not smarter than me. And so the media is being sold this buffoon concept. Fauci's an idiot. Trump's a buffoon. Biden's such an idiot. Their security is incapable of keeping them. Nobody's an idiot at that level. No, virtually nobody. I mean, you have greedy people who are ideological idiots, but they're actually very cunning and conniving humans consciously. I think that what we saw with the case of COVID was a giant scare with a stimulus created by wireless systems that leads you to a solution that integrates you into wireless systems. Problem, reaction, solution. We know the reaction was tech-based. We know the solution is mRNA, lipid nanoparticle tech-based. It stood the reason for me at the time that the problem was tech-based. But I wasn't prepared to say it was 5G, because I noticed, just like with the Charlie Kirk situation, everybody's just jumping on this 5G bandwagon, and I don't think people really know what this is. Right. I want to disable the 5G on my Wi-Fi. It's like, well, that's 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Right. It's not the same thing as 5G.
It's not millimeter wave technology.
Exactly. And I spoke a little at the time, but what it really made me acutely aware of is like, okay, they can get a lot done because nobody knows how this actually works. Nobody knows how any of this works. Even the computer guys are still having to play catch up on how this really works. And all the guys who know how it works, zip, key in the trash can. They ain't talking. And that's Sabrina's big hill that she's ready to die on, basically, is that she's like, y'all know what this is. All these health range and all these half of the internet health space in the gatekeeper section of things is built to gatekeep the fact that this stuff goes on so that you think it's a bioweapon. The globalists and their bioweapon. No, bro. It's too much money in using you like a hard drive in a computer to just kill you. I could have done that when you was born. I'm trying to make money, as the systems of this world go. So I think what we're really looking at is a very, very, very sophisticated, based on very rudimentary realities that were simply redacted from our health and our tech conversation. And so people are just now starting to be like, yeah, maybe Bluetooth isn't the best idea everywhere. Maybe our cells are somehow being affected at an atomic level with all this. Nobody was prepared to talk like that when all this technology first came out. Now we're rounding that corner.
Yeah.
And so I really think that with regards to the shot, we're not like to Dr. Timpany's point. I met her once before. In fact, when we first met, it's right when I met
in San Diego.
Yeah. And she was very nice and sweet to talk to. I just remember thinking, I don't think that this is the most. I think if you're going to do a bioweapon to kill, you spend a bunch of extra money and you didn't need to do it. Just stick it in the water and call it a day.
Right.
What they needed to do was scare people into agreeing to sign up for something.
Yeah.
You can't get away with it karmically or spiritually, I don't think, when you just put it in the water.
Right.
Because people don't agree just by going to take a shower or going to a restaurant and drinking water. You need a signature that says you're not suing me and you agreeing to what we about to stick in you. And everybody who got the shot signed something, don't matter whether it was a pop-up shop, a clinic.
Or even just a verbal agreement to do it.
I mean, but like with family who had worked in healthcare, specifically having done injections, inoculations in the past, they were like, there's no, like every hospital or medical system will have you sign something.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't freaking
just
know,
from a liability standpoint.
That shit, so I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense then.
Yeah, everybody signed something.
Wow.
Nobody was held down and it was forced in their arm. Either you or your power of attorney, or if you're in a hospice or something, some person signed for you.
Wow.
So I think they needed the spiritual agreement.
Yeah.
That was the first exchange. Then they needed the fear to give everybody the open door to accept what they were, essentially being bribed to accept. Then they went on the gaslighting campaign of 2021, and they knew they weren't going to get everybody, but that's not the point. The point is just, we need enough of these computer servers to be accessible when we say go, and no time slower. Just when I say connect, I want it to connect. And this is why I think some people had a crazy uptick in health anomalies and other people were fine.
Yeah.
Because I think that they don't need to scale every server right away. This is a bigger, wider system that ultimately you'll be doing your own processing if you choose to engage in the system.
So it's multifaceted. It's not that it was purely to get people to become their own node, so to speak. It's that it was that, and also there was a desire at some level to harm. Like it could be both.
Well, it's control is
kind of like with 5G too. It's that they want to increase the bandwidth of these various networks, right? And increase their access to them, which is why they have all these sensors and towers put up everywhere. But it's also that it is detrimental to human health. It's both.
It's both.
And
the better way, or the way that I word it is, we're in the lab and we know that when we hit this button on, 50% of the people are going to suffer bad results. Mm-hmm. But the point of us building this isn't to make those 53 people sick.
Got it.
It's to actually get what we want. And screw them 53 people. We don't care about them. Who are they anyway? Whatever. Vote harder next time. That's the energy. It's like, I could just kill you much easier. If I was wanting to kill y'all 53 people, I could just do it all in y'all house tonight.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I know 50% of people are going to be injured by my special box I'm creating, but I want this box to do what I want it to do.
Got it.
F those people. I don't care if they die.
Got it.
That's, to me, the energy around it, because when you saw myocarditis uptick and all these anomalies, I saw that as, got it. The heart is the valve. We know it's not the pump. And the spike protein is being created on the outside, ostensibly, of all these random cells, depending on where the LMP landed within 48 hours of being shot into some part of their body. So it could be stem cells, liver cells, spleen cells, testes, any type of cell. If it's a blood cell or somewhere in your bone marrow, then every new blood cell you're creating has this extra protein on it, which is essentially a physical thing. That's like, it's like if I have 2 pieces of quartz, it doesn't fit in my jar that's designed to hold 1 piece of quartz. And then you flood 10 billion of these through your heart, and now your heart is like, hey, like, you got Big Mama's house trying to come up through the
right.
Panama Canal. This thing is this big.
Right.
And here we are trying to squeeze the whole big bag neighborhood through. So I think that what people were speaking to was anomaly safety signals, but I don't think it was bioweapon or Pfizer wanting to make money. I think it was, I want to be Antoine Burla, the CEO of the company that's known for moving the fourth industrial revolution forward. If 25 or 30% of the people that take my product have to pass away, then so be it. You just part of that experiment. You signed up for it, didn't make you do it. You decided to. Okay, it's that type of thinking. It's a nihilistic, sociopathic. I don't care about you, as opposed to, oh, I care and I want to kill you.
Right.
It's like, I want this and I need you to be a part of this, and I don't care if it hurts you when I'm going for my goal.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I want to just define a few terms that we've discussed at this point, just quickly, and then we can get into some other things. So I want to talk about wearables. I don't want to. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Body area network. What does that mean?
So the body area network is, as defined by the IEEE, it is the group of networks and the zone of standardization that the human biofield and the associated devices that interact with it exist within.
Got it.
So a pacemaker, for example, is part of the body area network. An wearable or an Oura ring would also be exactly part of your
Wi-Fi router.
And that's part of your PAN, your personal area network.
Okay.
So the
body area network, would your phone be a body area network or PAN?
PAN, yeah.
Okay.
So intra-body is your terahertz level stuff. Terahertz meaning the frequency so fast that it doesn't travel through surfaces that well, and they don't go large distances. So it's a network set for this node to talk to this node and this one to talk to this one, very small. And that's your intra-body network. And then your body area network's the next big. Think of it like that Russian doll kind of concept.
So it encompasses the interbody network.
100%, yes. The body area network. The personal area network encompasses the body area network.
Got it. Okay.
The wide area network encompasses the personal area network.
Got it. So it is like Russian nested dolls then.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. And so the personal area network consists of all the devices in your home, of which like they're almost ubiquitous at this point. Like, my goodness, I don't think people realize, and this is not intended to scare, the amount of sensors. Like, I'm pretty sure even something like these lights that are above us, that are studio lights that you think are just there to light the room, have them. I mean, this sign may even freaking...
I'm telling you, if we were to just look around.
I like Kings of Neon who made this sign, so I don't want to think that they have it. Maybe they made it without even realizing some of the components in it actually just have it without them even realizing. But
there's a lot. If we were to map out,
the studio is an extreme example, but I'm like looking around. I mean, I'm like, dude,
not really though, because most people have more than 4 lights and more than 4 or 5 things in their home.
It's not even about LEDs just being harmful; it's that they have sensors in them too.
It's partly the sensor. It's partly the radiation, just like soup that it's making.
Yep, and also like the focused area within the bandwidth of visible light that we're only getting the blue spectrum.
Exactly.
Like, of course, that's a piece of it too. It's that it's pulsing like strobing, this, strobing.
So there's all those issues, but to me, the real cumulative issue is the cumulative effect. It's the fact that sitting right here in Texas, we are surrounded by 2 computers, 4 cameras, 2 mics, 8 or 10 lights, 2 accent lights, a Wi-Fi network, some Bluetooth on the 3 or 4 devices we have around, AM and FM, 3G, 4G, and 5G, all the hidden networks they're not telling us about, LoRaWAN, everybody's Biofield itself, everybody's personal area network devices, everybody's Oura ring. So just sitting right here, and we probably got 100 different signals going like this at all times.
That's crazy to think about it like that.
At all times. Yeah. And maybe if you can make it up to the radio frequency free zone of West Virginia, you can maybe have a few, like half. But there's a lot. This
is everyone's life right now.
This is everyone's life right now. So I have come to the understanding that a lot more of our ailments and discomforts and irregularities and arrhythmias and all these things that we deal with, from fibromyalgia to everything more specific, is most likely a result of accumulated toxic decay or disease, maybe we can say at a very acute level, from having so much in our fields affect our field.
Yep, 100% agree with that.
And so I just look at it like, it's not to be afraid of, but I just think that the human body is itching to get back to homeostasis at all times. And the powers that be are just increasing the amount of things that prevent that as a default.
You know, it's such an interesting thing because it's such a catch-22. I wouldn't have a relationship with you, and you're one of my really good friends. I wouldn't have a relationship with Reese or any of the people listening or watching this or any of the friends that we have that are mutual friends if it weren't for these devices.
Right.
I wouldn't have come across the no virus position if it weren't for these devices. I wouldn't have come across anything about the Biofield. Maybe I would have eventually. But the point is, like, all of this accumulated knowledge that I have, Veda Austin's work, Gerald Pollack's work, Dr. Edith, I wouldn't have if it weren't for these devices. So there is positive benefit to them.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, it's like there's such a dance. There's such a dance that we're in right now as human beings, because I even look at emotional issues, right? I think about, I've said this a number of times, the Kogi people of Colombia, the Hadza people of Africa, the Kiro people of Peru. I doubt they even have in their language chronic anxiety and chronic depression.
Right, exactly.
It's probably not even a concept. Like, people experience emotions, but when you're not bombarded by other signals and can hear your own signal, it becomes easier to sit with and just process those emotions. And I had a direct experience of that when I did my 15-day water fast, where I was away from technology as much as I can, and then also the other, quote, signals or voices, as Mike Cardamone calls them, of food inside my body, right? And I was really digitally detoxing out in Colorado, where there's not a lot of non-native EMFs, out in the middle of the mountains. And all of those things sort of came to the surface that many of which I didn't even realize that were there, like those thoughts that I didn't want to entertain, or just stuff came back, and it became much easier to process them. It really did.
Interesting.
When I eliminated those other signals, and I just had this epiphany where it's like, I think that we're dealing with the effects of being disconnected from nature in the sense that we are physically disconnected, of course. But the metaphysical implications are greater in that all of these various overlapping signals are making it much harder for us to regularly process emotions in a way that is much easier.
Efficient.
So we get this chronic anxiety, chronic depression, chronic apathy. That's what happens to a lot of people because we're bombarded by this physically and metaphysically. So that's where the awareness comes back in. Okay, now that we're aware, what do we do about it? We focus on cultivating a deep connection with ourselves, with our creator, and we spend more time to offset being around these things, which have a positive benefit in nature, amongst natural things, as much as we can.
Yeah. And I think that it's scary for people. You know, we grew up with, like, you know, cartoons and things that were already priming us about connecting, put like goggles on, a little Googled the Quest glasses on, or any of these VR. That was like cool when we were younger, and now it's like a reality. And I think that we're having to work against the propaganda and programming. That's honestly the hardest part. It's not hard to walk into the woods. It's hard to, like, convince yourself to create the time and the importance to do it.
Yes. Yes, it is, man.
It's like, I can just walk out there right now, but I got stuff to do.
Yeah, exactly. And we're being increasingly sucked into these digital spaces. And, man, it's just wild to think about.
I think it's a balance thing, because to your point, we wouldn't be here without the internet or the social media space.
Right.
I just think that everything in life has this window. And I think we hit, like, I remember my school was one of the first schools to ever have Facebook in 2005. And 20 years later, I have no desire to go back on Facebook ever. I haven't logged in years. So it's kind of like I was super gung-ho. Oh, this is so cool. Like, the high school kids can't get it, only the college kids. Then it was high school, then it was everybody. And for 10 years, it was Facebook. And at some point, I'm like, I don't know that I think this window is passing for me of opportunity. Or not of opportunity, because I can still log in right now. It's the fact that it's a teaching tool. It's a connection tool and a teaching tool, not a place to live in forever.
Right.
And I think that we're at this important nexus point where we can recultivate our conventional social places outside of social media, but it's like slipping.
Yes.
It's becoming where even if you want to go to a party with a bunch of people, you got to tell them all to put their phones down and not get on social media or not blog the fact that they're there while they're there. So it's like we're got one toe in, one toe out. I call it the organic or the digital fork in the road. We're coming to the fork. And I think that half, and I'm using general numbers, but half the people will be convinced, I don't know what to do. I need these government services. I need these ubiquitous systems. I got the shot. I got the injection. I'm connected. Maybe the connection will work in my benefit. Like no Black Mirror episode ever turned out to be.
Right.
That's one half of thinking. The other half of thinking is, I don't know, man. My granddad would seem to be all right with just his shovel and his garden. I'm kind of more inclined to trust him than Peter Thiel these days. Yeah. So it's like
shameless plug. This is why I created the Way Forward platform to do what it does.
Exactly.
Like literally, and it's so cool seeing we have members organizing stuff in Georgia where they're all getting together. We have members in North and South Carolina, by the way, that are organizing meetups right now too.
In fact, I got an email from one. We'll talk about that.
Okay, yeah. And then like we're organizing one in Texas soon. California did one. Idaho here. That's exactly what the whole point is. Like if we're going to use these digital tools effectively, that's one of many ways. Of course, getting access to information that you wouldn't have had otherwise that benefits your life, benefits your connection to God, your connection to other people, understanding of your health, and then also connecting with each other. Like that's how I formed a friendship with you, dude. And I'm very grateful for that, right? That's why you're sitting here in front of me. Yeah. And it's like, these are the beneficial ways we can use it. And I think we're, just like you said, at this nexus point where it's like, I don't know if it'll ever get to a point, like what for us would be like, all right, I've had enough. I'm done with all these digital platforms.
Well,
have you thought about that?
Yeah, I'm almost there. Yeah, because I remember hearing this a long time ago. Somebody said it was like somebody's dream/vision, and I remember being like, really, I don't know. And 10 years later, I'm like, oh my gosh, that lady was right. She said in her dream or some vision she had, she said people eventually became aware that being online wasn't safe. It wasn't wise for their own personal safety or their children's safety after a certain breakdown in society, to the point of where being online is more about ratting you out as opposed to informing you of anything. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're definitely
trending in that direction.
Even
just the fact that my wife, when I told her, because I had just landed back from Serbia, pull up my phone and I see, one of the first things I see on Twitter is the video footage of Charlie Kirk. Right. So I call Kylie and I'm like, hey, like, just so you know, this happened, just so she could be aware that, oh, that's going on social media. 1-2 days later, she opens up her phone to get on social media, and that's the first thing she sees on social media. And then she's told me that her sister, who has kids that are teenagers, some that are old enough to have phones, whatever you define old enough to have phones, right, they're pretty strict about it, but they have phones and they've all seen the footage too, and it's like, this is
like, that's not great.
No, like, bro, that is not, like, we human beings 100 years ago saw that very rarely, very sparingly, like maybe if ever saw some shit like that
in a real combat scenario or in war.
Exactly.
But nowhere, not in video games.
Or a crazy accident where like someone's chopping down a tree and the tree branch goes through something crazy.
Maybe if Jason Voorhees was your next door neighbor,
right,
you saw it. Everybody else didn't see it, just you.
That's exactly. And now we're seeing this regularly on a daily basis, dude. Like even aside from the Charlie Kirk thing, the other variety of things that have happened, it's like I don't think we appreciate enough, all conversations aside on what we've talked about today, what that might be doing at a subconscious level to our psyche.
Oh yeah.
Like, bro, if I cried after the Charlie Kirk thing, I'm not saying if you did not cry or feel some emotional response that you are effed up. That's not what I'm saying. But like, if you didn't cry, maybe it's time to question, like, man, how much am I desensitized? Like, even if it was a psyop, even if it was completely staged and he's still alive, that act itself, seeing that
should invoke something.
Should invoke a visceral response in you, like, man, that is not okay.
I'm glad you mentioned this, because you landed on the plane and pulled up your phone and saw it. I was at lunch with an old friend. I hadn't seen him in a while. He came into town. I didn't have I try to put my phone away. He ends up taking a break, going to the bathroom, and I just pick up the phone to check stuff, and that's when I saw it. And so in that zone, we're kind of hanging out this restaurant for like about an hour or two after we were finished talking about the whole situation. I probably watched that clip like 100 times. And it wasn't until later that night that I had to stop and be like, hold on now. I just watched a dude get shot in the neck like probably 100 times, and I'm having to like articulate why I think that that's probably like I'm having to kind of bring my own emotions out. It's not to say that I was laughing. I wasn't.
No, for sure.
The first time I saw it, I was like, whoa. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that looks, ooh, I think they got him.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, it didn't, I wasn't like, oh, like, it wasn't like that.
Right.
And it took me the whole day of watching it from all these angles to be like, I don't know, Chris. I don't know if it's a good thing to just watch as the guy who you wasn't really even a huge fan of in the first place just get blasted in the neck a bunch of times. There's something that's not right about it.
And that's all of us for the most part right now.
Right,
dude.
right.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like, yeah.
I didn't cry, but I definitely got to a point that night where I was like, I have a bad feeling about it.
Yes.
And it wasn't so much like, oh gosh, we lost a man of God. It wasn't that. Rest in peace, Charlie. It was, I don't think the world is prepared for that. Like, I'm barely prepared for, like, I'm pretty put together and
right.
I'm not even fully prepared for that.
And to your own credit, like, I know that you've had to sit with some other traumatic stuff in your life too. And that, you could argue on one level that might desensitize you to stuff like this, but also I would say it more so prepares you to look at stuff like this. And at the same time though, dude, the point that I'm getting at, the amount, the frequency at which we're exposed to stuff like that these days, and we're just like, oh, that's another thing. Oh, that was crazy shit. Oh, damn, that's funny. Like,
that's
bro,
the thing.
like
From the scroll, I mean, imagine, to your point, let's go with that. So imagine what it's like when you're like, ooh, huh. Oh, that's scary.
That's what I'm saying.
You see what I'm saying? You're
Yes.
talking extreme. That's what we would call MK Ultra in any clinical sense. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Right, bro.
We're doing it all to ourselves every day.
Like, without context, if you just measured someone's heart rate variability and brainwave activity, you'd be like, that person is insane.
Yeah.
You would literally do that.
You either say that they're insane or they're in some sort of like
Psychosis,
like, right?
like
Because
state of
their
psychosis.
physiology is just all left,
like,
right, up and down. I'm glad you brought that up, because I did have a moment where I'm like, I really feel bad for this person. I was like, for a second there, even though I would always see clips where I'm like, oh, Charlie, like these whole people who play in this two-party paradigm are lost in the sauce.
Lost in the sauce.
But
Completely agree.
I didn't like hate Charlie any more than any of the rest of them. I was just kind of like, yeah.
Agree with some of the things he says, some of the things.
Sure,
like,
exactly.
Wow, what
exactly.
the hell is he talking about?
But my point was, or the reason I brought that up is because I just remember thinking, I don't even care that much about this dude, and I'm inclined to care. You see what I'm saying? It's like, I care about him as a person, not as a pundit, but as a person. Can we all just say, politics, whatever, this is uncool? And the fact that I wasn't seeing anybody do that, or very few people do that, that almost made me more sad than actually watching him get shot.
So
because
true.
I'm going, come on, y'all. Like, this is the one opportunity we had to, like, you as an individual commentator had to show some sort of respect for the dead, or for context for your brother, or patience with regard to like learning what's, none of that was displayed. It was like, Alec's a tranny and he's a control opposition. This is what happened.
Right.
And so I'm kind of like, my sadness came admittedly a bit more about the way the body handled, the public handled that information, so more so than the event itself. And I don't know that that's a good thing, because I think that it's like, I've probably watched too many traumatic things if I can watch a dude get shot in the neck 100 times and barely flinch and just like, oh, let's see if we can get the 1080 version. Ooh, let me see 4K. Ooh,
yeah, slow it down. Like,
yeah,
dude, I even caught myself doing that when making that response video to people. And I'm like, what the, like, let's assume for a second at this level, let's assume for a second, and I don't know, that he was legitimately killed. Could you imagine his wife? This is a whole separate, my brain's going off in so many different directions. This is a whole separate conversation. If he was legitimately killed, I have suspicions on who might have done it and what might have happened with his wife acting strange and all things like this. Look. But all of that aside, can you imagine that happening to your significant other that you love dearly, and then people on the internet like, it's one thing where people are like, you know, saying, "Oh, good that he's dead." Like, you almost expect that coming from the crowd haters, of people who are the haters. But then people are analyzing like all the frame by frame footage of your husband. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Oh, that guy Frank, who's like your husband's best friend. I'm pretty sure he did it. Look at the way he adjusted his hat right before. You see what I'm saying? That's double trauma, triple trauma.
Yeah, triple.
So I can't imagine what Erica must be going through at the moment. I mean, I could clearly surmise that I don't think it was alone. I mean, I would be, you know, assuming here, but I look at what I look at, and I look at maybe semi-professional, some sort of job that required the collusion of more than just one individual.
Yeah.
If we're even at the minimum going with the patsy, like the decoy shooter type concept. But I really am looking at this, and I see people's reaction about his wife's reaction. I'm going, I don't think y'all understand what it's like to actually walk into a room of power that's bigger than what you can explain. Like, I always tell people, I give the story, I'll tell you, maybe I've told you, back in my time in Hollywood, not even tooting my own horn, because I ended up in the office of the most powerful movie agent ever, not by my own accord. It's because my homie, we had done the big Super Bowl thing, 2013. The big win was that my buddy Mark, who actually lives here in Austin, got to go hang out with Michael Bay and on the set of Transformers 2. And part of what they wanted to do for Michael Bay's management and actually just for Michael Bay as a thank you was to do a happy birthday video. Part of that involved going to film his agent for a few minutes, just saying a couple lines. But his agent happened to be the most powerful Hollywood agent on earth. And it was a interesting couple hours at this place because I find myself putting a lapel. I was there just to do audio, right? Putting a lapel mic and helping mic this dude up. And I'm standing around what, if you've ever seen the show Entourage, is who Jeremy Piven's character is based off of. Like the real guy that Jeremy Piven's fake character is based off of. I'm standing there putting a mic on him. And I'm going, everybody in my whole career or in my whole industry would kill to be in this to stand in this office, corner office, top floor, William Moore, like boom, but this is the guy. You walk in the building, everybody in the building, oh, you're filming with Ari? You're filming with Ari? What are you going to have him do? Oh, that's crazy. Like, let me know how it goes. Everybody's like, he's like a god basically in this industry. And I have been in rooms like that where you just can feel what it's like to know what someone who's powerful can do if they don't like you or if they don't approve of you.
Yeah.
We were just there just to get him to say a couple lines to say happy birthday for his most lucrative client. That was a difficult process. Well, what do I got to say? Well, what if I say it like this? Yeah, no, that messes up the edit. Just say the line that we can get out your. Oh, and you watch this amoeba. And it's so hard to translate when people are learning about Hollywood or the Illuminati online because they've never been in the rooms.
Right.
But when I tell you, nobody gave me a checklist of do's and don'ts when I walked in that building, but I was very much acutely aware of what I absolutely could not do in that room.
Just by default.
Yeah. Because like if I take my phone out right now and just take a picture, like, hey, look, I'm in Ari's office. I'm never working in the city again. I'm going to be escorted out the building, and my whole crew is going to be pissed at me because we missed the shot that we came here to get. Yeah. So that's a very simple example. Yeah. But I'm saying.
No, I get what you mean. There's like a lot of unspoken stuff where it's like.
So much unspoken. Yeah. Now, this was when Rahm Emanuel was Obama's Secretary of State or whatever. Avi, what's the older brother? He was the COVID czar, and Ari was the Hollywood guy. So there's three brothers, and I remember thinking,
wait, three brothers, and they're all at the top of various industries.
One was our Secretary of State, Rahm Emanuel. His brother, Ari Emanuel, was the top agent of all time, and his other brother was the COVID guy under Biden. He wrote all the rules under COVID.
I did not know that.
And so I remember at the time thinking, so one guy's nuts. One womb, one set of ovaries and fallopian tubes, and one set of testes produced the controlling individuals of our media, our State Department, and our pandemic response team. They all sit at the same Thanksgiving dinner table together, and y'all want to talk about who controls things, and it's like concentrated down, and not that they control everything, but in terms of media perception, COVID, and at least the projection of our State Department under the Obama administration, this was this one family's doing. And I just remember thinking, if ever I were to piss this family off, just this is like internal thought process. Yeah. it wouldn't be a surprise if I showed up dead on my next public speaking tour. You see what I'm saying? Because
Totally.
I know how this works. Nobody has to sit down and say, hey, we're in the mafia and we actually run the engine behind the engine that is the industry that you work in. And everybody in this building's afraid of this guy, so you should be too. Like, nobody has to say that. You just pick that up through the biofield. That's all unspoken.
The intuition comes in, right?
And
the heebie-jeebies.
The heebie-jeebies. And I just remember coming off that experience, this guy, like, it's like he wouldn't look at you. Like, and he looked at his assistant, but I'm there with the director, 2 other people. We're just there for 20. It was like very, very brief. But this guy's like, who is this guy? Tell this guy to put the mic on me. Tell him to make me look good. But he's talking about you, but he's looking to the guy next to you, talking to you. Yeah, whoever this dude is, just make me look good. And you just, it's such a hard thing to articulate.
I get it.
Because it's an unspoken thing.
Yeah.
So in the case of who killed Charlie or why or what and all this, I don't think that Matt Walsh, Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, anybody in that space, Candace Owens, even Ian Carroll, I don't think any of them exist in this place where they're too stupid and too green to know how this works. I think they're all very, very smart and very astute and very perceptive and very good at communication. Yeah. And when if we caught a couple videos of Charlie saying, I don't know, man, maybe we should investigate the stand down order. Why, I was in Jerusalem and it only takes 45 minutes by helicopter to get to the Gaza Strip. Like, what's the 6 hour? What y'all talking about? If he can say that on camera, then the off camera stuff was like, I got to figure out how to restructure. I'm assuming here.
No, I get what you mean.
So like,
it makes a lot of sense.
I can't help but assume or anticipate that he saw the writing on the wall before any of us did.
Yep.
And so his wife, just like with Kylie, just like with my wife, they gonna know what's up. And you ain't gonna have to say it out loud. And they might not have to say nothing more than like, we good? Here's your press briefing. You good? And that you good has 800 bullet points underneath it. That's
and what you're talking about specifically is after the... Okay, so I want to piece together some things. Mm-hmm. What you're alluding to, and I have landed at this currently. I don't know if by the time this comes out, I will have changed my perspective. Again, I'm open to changing my mind. I think that he was legitimately killed.
Me too.
And I think that some agents of Israel, let's say Mossad, or someone else that has vested interest in keeping up this narrative surrounding Israel might be behind it, because he was slowly starting to question and reveal publicly what he was questioning, which means what you're getting at, behind the scenes, he was like, I got to figure out how to restructure my whole business, because like I have a moral conflict that I'm feeling right now where this just isn't right. I got to say something, but I've already signed some deals here. I've already had money paid to me by donors, and they're breathing down my neck right now just by the mere fact that I'm alluding to slightly possibly questioning what happened on October 7th, maybe. Right. And because of that, it's kind of freaking me out. I'm having these conversations with my wife where I'm like, hey, like I this feels like the right thing to do. I'm gonna be very careful about it, I promise you. But then someone else revealed possibly, and again, this is good, we could all be wrong on this, but I think it was Harrison, one of the guys who's a part of InfoWars. And again, I'm not saying that I believe everything that InfoWars says. I think that's a whole separate conversation on Alex Jones and that whole organization. But that being said, that he revealed that Charlie, or someone close to Charlie, had said that Charlie was very scared about what Israel might do if he speaks out about Israel. And he had been a mouthpiece for Israel. He had been a mouthpiece for Israel. But I think that if he was indeed shot and killed, there was some dealings with Israel involved.
Well, that will be called pattern recognition. That will be called human behavior 1.0, identifying patterns. So to your point, I agree with you. It is my hunch that anything we see publicly has about 50 different tabs open behind the scenes on anything that's going on, good or bad.
We missed the Erica piece too. We missed that.
Like, her reaction.
Because people are talking about her reaction at Charlie's supposed funeral. It's like,
I don't know if I would have done any different.
Could you imagine if like you came to the realization that,
your husband's donors,
this is what happened.
Right.
And then they show up just like you said and said, hey, here's what you're going to say.
They're going to be like, we're sorry for your loss, aren't we?
Yeah. Right?
You're gonna be like,
exactly.
I guess I am. I guess you are sorry for my loss.
That's exactly my point, dude. Like, okay, and here's what we're gonna say. We're sorry for your loss. Here's what you're gonna say about it. And if you don't say this, and they don't even have to say this, but it's just the unspoken. What they're saying in the unspoken way is like, kids next.
Right, exactly.
You next.
You next. Like, how bold? Like you didn't think if we took your husband out like this, please don't think we pussyfooting or bluffing about someone less influential.
And then they can still blame it on a leftist that still brings in the government policy that, we need to be more careful about what's happening on social media. We need to digitalize. All of that could still be true.
Right.
Whether or not he died for real
or it was.
Yeah, exactly.
So regarding whether he passed, I look at someone like a Jeffrey Epstein, a 50-something, 60-something year old career father-in-law, like at least Ghislaine's father, connected. All the points point to, the cameras were off. The security guards were changed. He offed himself after he was already, like, come on. Like, that to me says he's an asset worth protecting because he's responsible for so many people's blackmail. And it makes more sense. We have no reason to kill this dude. Yeah,
like we took him somewhere and he's in some sort of witness protection.
Charlie's situation is a much more effective signal.
Yep.
I mean, like, again, I'm not trying to make this about political pundits because you and I are the same. We're not really into the politics.
Exactly.
Take a Candace Owens, for example. Someone else who's been conservatively on the right, someone who has been outspoken in her distancing of herself from Israel, her dissatisfaction with the way that their State Department handles everything, particularly the Gaza situation. And it says to people in any turning point or whatever, the Daily Wire, like any of that umbrella, even the like Groyper or Nick Fuentes group, all the way up the right, it says, call my bluff again. Say what you're gonna say, but call this bluff. Do you really want to call it? Charlie called it. How did that work out for him? And they don't have to say none of that. They just don't let it get censored on Instagram for 2 days. And so everybody's mom and their kids sees the message. And if you want to say shot her around the world, it might as well have been because of the message that it sent.
Yep.
So that's why I look at this and I go, cui bono, right? Who stands to benefit from this? And in the case of someone like an Epstein, sequestering him for future potential use seems way more like a likely scenario. They were probably worried about Charlie's future potential use. You see what I'm saying? Because he was showing at least his usefulness for their agenda had already come and gone.
Reached its maximum.
And for the group of people that's the best at stepping out ahead of the narrative, ain't no better way to step out ahead of the narrative than the way they did it. So I gave that Ari Emanuel example to say that, like, if I was in some similar dynamic and someone as powerful as this maybe, hexagram connected media mogul and his family felt like some type of way against me, I would have to say no additional words for everybody in my immediate circle to fully understand what's going on.
Right.
And I think that's really
you showed on your face. You could tell.
And I think that could be mistaken as insincerity or weirdness in her reply, because it's not how you would reply, because you don't have an international intelligence agency that just shot your husband in the neck. But it's like, I just think that people don't really understand the social and unspoken pressure about mafiosos, whether we're talking mafias in real life or mafias behind the entertainment industry or mafias behind the political industry.
Can't even imagine, dude.
I only barely dealt with it, and it was heavy for me.
Right.
So
I cannot
imagine,
bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to imagine. I don't even want to think about that shit. Right. That's wild to me.
So that's why I take that media aspect, and on that chart, it's one of 8 different pizzas, one of 8 different slices, so to speak, of this bigger pizza pie of the bigger picture of what's going on, because the media plays such a key perception management control. And I never understood how important it was until very recently, even having worked in the industry. It still hits me to this day, like, wow, people need some sort of emotional spin to be put on an issue for anything to move with the issue. Because most of these issues are either stupid or great. It's like a bill is either dumb or great. It's either the best or the worst side.
Yep.
It's just how it's being sold, right? You can take a great bill and trash it and then the other side, the liberal half, trashes some great conservative bill, or vice versa, and then the thing's dead in water. Or vice versa, you can take a good or a bad bill and point out how bad it is, and this is a problem, and then that could be. But it's the fact that nobody's really doing either of those with regard to the biodigital convergence, the tech. As I'm reading through all the fallout and the interpretation of who and how and what guy, was it an inside job, was it a hit? The whole time I'm going, I don't know, y'all. They could just have remote neural monitor input, remote connect. They hit the button. They got a remote. It looked like a PlayStation controller or Xbox controller or a standard remote. Sometimes you put a headset on, other times just on a screen. And if they so choose, whether we're talking whoever the official shooter's name, whether it was a Mangione or a weirdo of this flavor or a weirdo of that flavor, they can acutely dial into someone. Arm go up in the air. I mean, did you hear the gentleman, the murderer from Charlotte with the Ukrainian girl, right? Yeah. So I
already know what you're about to say, and I
the materials. You heard the thing,
bro. He said, and like. Maybe he was making an excuse, and I don't think so, bro.
He wasn't. That's what I'm saying. He wasn't making no excuses. It's like people sound crazy when they crazy. You can tell the Biofield or whatever the discernment can tell. This dude straight up, plain as day, was like, "Yeah, the materials they put in my body. The government put some materials in my body. You need to investigate the materials if you want to know why I killed it." Well, excuse me, sir. So you're saying the government put some materials in? The government put some materials in my body, and I don't know, man. The materials did it. I don't know why they chose her. It was kind of random. I don't know. I wouldn't why would I do that?
And the possibility there's on psych meds on top of that too, bro.
I'm just saying. So
that's exactly.
So getting this fresh haircut here that I came to get myself looking all right and ready for the Way Forward podcast. Being from Charlotte, I found myself sitting in my barber's chair, and my barber's like, we actually had a guy come in here who knew the guy. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what did you hear? And he said, well, he said he has had a history of not mental health, but he's just been in and off the streets. He said, but the guy kind of spoke to him like everybody kind of knew him. Like he was like kind of almost like the homeless guy from around the way that everybody knows. And he's like, cool,
yeah, for sure. That's always hangs out by that gas station. That's
exactly. Exactly. And he mentioned that his father and his brother had a history with being locked up for something similar. But when you get into at least the little bit of looking that I've done on him, it's like his felonies are like impersonating a police. It's like all things that are not related to the actual felony he did here. And then I'm looking at this story and I'm hearing about it. We're Monday. So I heard about it last Wednesday, right? This happened like a month ago at this point. So I'm sitting there at lunch with the same day I heard about the Charlie Kirk thing. Earlier that day, we're talking about this stabbing on the light rail. And the guy who I'm eating lunch with, him, a friend of my mutual friends, he's like, I live in Elizabeth, the area right on the light rail in downtown Charlotte. He's like, this is the first time I'm even hearing about this. And I'm sitting there going, okay, so I heard about it earlier today, 3 weeks after it happened. This guy lives at the scene of the crime. He ain't heard about it till right now. How is it that the whole conversation around the world knows about the stabbing and it's got this race baiting and this Ukrainian and refugee and the people who live right next to the incident haven't even heard of it?
Wild.
I was like, is that a thing? Is that a thing? Does a bomb go off and the guy who lives next door doesn't hear it, but the guy across the world hears it first? Like, is that
interesting?
Is that, I don't know what y'all call that, but that's just weird. So when I started to do some research on the stabbing or in the train situation, and my buddy who knows that I'm into this, he's like, Chris, you got to see this clip. And it's the guy straight up saying they put materials in me.
Yep.
And I'm hearing him, I'm going, well, he's probably talking about the hydrogels or some nanoferritin or graphene something. But it's like the page that I saw it on was a David Harris Jr. post. Now, I don't follow David Harris Jr., but the person who sent it to me saw the clip and he sent it. And I look in the comments of that post, and every single person in the comments, straight to the gas chambers, lynch him. We've heard it before. Right. Play the crazy card. You need to be under the jail. And I'm like, yeah, okay, justice or whatever. But like, can I just point out that the thing he's just saying right here is the same thing that, I don't know, countless other perpetrators before him have said something very similar.
Right.
I'll never forget watching a replay it was a documentary about voice to skull and targeted individuals, and it was showing the dude who did the University of Florida stab, I forgot, maybe 10 years ago. And this guy calmly in a polo shirt and sweater vest is like, they've been talking to me, getting me to try to do this for years. I'm frankly tired of it. I don't actually want to do this. I just want the voices to stop. And so I'm going to go ahead and just do it so that they can just shut up. I mean, that was his sense. And he was that clear-minded. And he stood up, grabbed his gun, walked out, shot him, got shot right then. But he left the computer, like the video was recording the whole time. And he was. Oh,
I didn't know that. So this is before he did it.
Yeah, before he did it. Bro. He was like, I'm tired of it. I just wanted to stop.
So it wasn't like, it couldn't be. I'm not saying it could not be an excuse even in this instance, but it couldn't be like after the fact, like, oh, I got to blame it on something. I'm going to blame it on the government. Yeah. It's like he literally said, this is why I'm doing it.
He said it. He said, I'm tired of it. And you saw this, like, it was because I didn't know who this guy was at first. It was me watching it and then going back, oh, wait, that was the dude that did the shooting? Oh, wait, let me go back and watch this. The dude in his whole sincerity is like, I'm tired of it, man. I just wanted to stop. Like, I don't want to do this, but it's like they've been telling me to do this for years, and if I just do it, they'll stop. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it.
Oh my God,
it was that sentiment. And so he wasn't even the first one I've heard say that. This guy more recently is just like the 10th guy I've heard, and I'm like, I don't know, y'all. Like, it just seems like all the check boxes for all the race baiting, plus the motive, it's just like, I don't know, call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to. It's just that makes more sense 100%. than the official narrative.
Totally.
So
dude, it really stuck out to me when I saw that too. I'm like, how are people overlooking this? Especially like a lot of the same people that are completely overlooking this and immediately jumping to the race baiting stuff are the same people who in other situations would be like, no, like the psych drug thing, that is something that needs to be looked at with this. At the least that, if not having research like, no, they will absolutely use some sort of MK Ultra technology on people. I'm like, bro, this dude's literally saying it. Like,
they're saying it. So to your point about bigger point about the biodigital convergence, I honestly think we're looking at the same thing, Alec. When we see these terror events, and again, I'm speaking my opinion. I could be wrong about this, but I truly believe we are looking at a stage managed, biodigitally hacked patsy. Mm-hmm. I think that fake patsies are like a backup, because if you can create a true patsy with a augmented or some sort of digital system that the patsy nor anybody else knows exists, that's the cleanest and neatest way to do what you got to do. I think we're looking at people getting sick from wireless means, not viruses. People doing crazy things. Yeah, mental health, but mental health is a very broad concept, right? So mental health that's already a little off center being exacerbated by a targeted protocol, and then this guy being selected based on, like, that's what we're looking at.
He's a match. He's almost like a resonant match.
Precisely.
Right.
Precisely. And I mean, we can get AI to model pretty much anything these days. Yep. It's not that hard, but like ChatGPT, who's the most likely who should I say did this based on these factors? Enter. Yep. Here's 10 people that fit that profile. Put in Palantir's algo with all their information. You can probably get that dialed in even tighter. So I really think that they got everybody in dummy mode talking about hand signals and like fake guns off to the side. I don't think they need to do that. They could do a terahertz bullet with a hologram overlay if they wanted to. Now, I don't think that's what they did. I'm saying if they wanted to, if we're really talking about faking the funk, why risk squibs and blood? Why not do something with some special laser and put a little projected image over top of it to seal the deal? It ain't the first time. It's not like I ain't done that before. You see what I mean? So I really think that they're getting everybody arguing over each other, tripping over each other's feet, because we're all collectively way back here in terms of where things are. Same thing with COVID. Like, get a D-dimer test. Ask your doctor about this, and this. And I'm going, if this is a bio-cyber interface and there are no measurable tools to even identify what frequencies these are working at, you definitely ain't told no doctors about how this works, because they all went to med school 30 years before this technology came out. That's how it works. It's, I'm a doctor, so in my expert opinion, what we're looking at is X, Y, and Z. Well, I'm a conspiracy theorist researcher, and in my expert opinion, what we're looking at is A, B, and C. And I'm sitting over here like, hi, I'm just a guy. I don't even know what I am these days. You can call me a podcast. I'm a man. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I just know a couple things about digital systems. And from what it appears, these digital systems are a lot more integrated. Think of it like Agent Smith in The Matrix. Who was after Neo other than Agent Smith? Was it the lady who was getting in the car? Well, she was controlled opposition for that second, but not to her own awareness or control. I have a stronger hunch that what we're dealing with is a world that's built with this biofield access, suggesting, stimulating, and training digital twin. Like, all of this is what's going on. And because 99% of it's invisible and redacted, people are just bumping into each other and blaming everything that ain't anything, and talking about 57-year-old technology as if it's brand new, and talking about hand signals like we the umpire and nobody know how to take a shot without somebody telling them to shoot first. It's like, I think we only have the movies, and we have what we're told, and we're told so little.
Well, it's even this like smallest thing, that the phenomenon where you think about someone and they call you, right? People don't pay attention to something as little as that and just chalk it up to being a coincidence, because they erroneously believe that we live in a physical world primarily.
Right.
When it's a metaphysical world overlaid, which the metaphysical world I believe is primary, overlaid over the top of secondary physical world. Matter, right? Yeah. And so we're always looking to physical explanations for the variety of things that are happening, for better and for worse, when I think there are so many things that can be better explained metaphysically that are happening, and because we're looking at the physical happenings and the physical explanations, we're overlooking the number of metaphysical explanations, again, for better and for worse, that could more easily explain what's going on. And we're not, how do I put this? It's like, we're not pushing the envelope, again, for better and for worse, of understanding what might be happening metaphysically, right? And when I say for better and for worse, what I mean is in terms of our own innate powers and our innate capacity that we have as human beings, metaphysically. Like, if we're talking about the biofield being another aspect of our body, I think it's reasonable to suggest, and I think I have enough circumstantial evidence to suggest this, that it's just another muscle that has to be worked. For example, like, I know that the more that I've paid attention, that, me thinking about someone and them calling her afterwards, that's not just coincidence. That's something there. I don't know how to access more of it. Right. But like, more of that type of stuff happens in my life now that I'm paying attention to it.
And I think it's that your mind isn't blocking it.
Yes.
So it's, it might be that you're helping co-manifest it, but at least you're not unmanifesting it.
You're not unmanifesting it. Exactly. I think like you're paying attention to it more, and it's like, oh, now I'm aware of that thing. It's kind of like when you see a word for the first time, then you start seeing it everywhere. It's like you didn't have the lens to truly see that it was there. And now that I do, it's like, oh shit, this world is completely different than I thought it was. And then on the flip side of that, I hesitate to say for worse, because I do believe that we created this technology in our image. We were created in the image of the Most High, of God. This right here is the superior technology. This digital thing is not the superior technology. It is the inferior technology. And so when I say what I'm about to say, it's not meant to scare. It's just awareness. For worse, though, too, there are so many things, like this situation with Charlie Kirk, like this situation with the dude in Charlotte, North Carolina, like that shooter that you brought up in Florida, like the variety of things that are happening. The phenomenon of COVID can largely be explained, or not largely, at least partially be explained by some of these metaphysical happenings that we aren't looking at because we think we're in a physical world.
Right. And imagine how effective of a confusion and control strategy that is. It's like, imagine you're trying to control a bunch of butterflies and you never tell them they have wings. Y'all are all a bunch of Caterpillar 2.0s, like, crawl your ass over here and get some lunch. And they can fly, but they don't know that they can fly because they've never been taught flight is a thing, or wings are a thing. They just think they're just vestigial. That's what I truly believe. Sabrina is always harping on the fact that the biofield is a body part. And it took me a minute to round my head around that, to be like, okay, but like how, like piloerection, the ability that you can have to control your biofield. The way you see it is your hair stands up on end. But you've had a neck raising on the hair raising on the back of your neck moment. That is your biofield activating and kind of like pulsing out and coming back in. The hair the hair, just like rubbing your feet on the carpet and static, or putting your hand in the socket, or having your hair go up. It's reacting in the same way electrically. I just never considered the implications of how it being a body part and like an atrophied body part is both the problem and the solution, one and the same. It's the problem because everybody's got one, so therefore you all got a Wi-Fi chip and we can all connect into you before you knew that that was possible. The solution is, oh wait, so I can just learn to control my biofield, and that already puts me at odds with their system because it breaks the lock and it creates some sort of static interference with what they're trying to do. Boom, now I have something I can work toward. And I think that the human body, like thinking of it like a body part, to me is the best. Because you can think, for example, like they say some people have like this vestigial tail, right? This tailbone that in some ancestral past might have been a tail, or might have, who knows? But imagine if you can kind of wiggle your tailbone and somebody said, hey, you just got to practice. I've never wiggled my tailbone. Like, I just feel like I'm shaking my butt, but I don't feel like I'm wiggling.
Or try to individually move your toes.
Right. Exactly. That's tough. Or try to like make your dick go left and then right. It's like, I can think it, but I can't like, that's not it's a muscle, but not really.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, there's all kinds of things that if we were to try to do with certain body parts, we would have to kind of like practice a lot.
Like we can conceptualize it and it's like, like how do I do it? Yeah.
Exactly. Like get your ear. I can make my ears move.
Me too.
But a lot of people can't.
Yeah.
A lot of people legitimately will be like,
moving their cheeks, their forehead,
everything
eyebrows.
but the ears. But it took me a minute of practicing to like be able to do that, right? Yeah. So it's just as attainable as being able to move your ears or trill your R's or whistle or any sort of thing that the human body, shoot a jump shot. Right. All these things are muscle memory. The reason Stephen Curry is the way Stephen Curry is because he shot a zillion jump shots.
Yep.
And the body ability to have muscle memory in your biofield is both an innate thing and I think something that's being atrophied by the fact that we're not consciously, most people aren't consciously trying to control it.
Yep.
So I think that once we become aware of that, number one, that makes me less afraid, and number two, it gives me some sort of tool to fight back with their system. And the way Ms. Wallace would always say is that at least a femtosecond, if not more, the human body is faster than the fastest machines. It's always going to take the system a minute of delay to react, whereas the human body and the human nervous system is
relatively instant.
Virtually instant.
There's a recent poll that I put out on all my social media channels, and 95% of people responded that they're struggling to find their health and freedom community in person. And don't get me wrong, these platforms, these devices that you're listening to or watching this podcast on right now are great for helping to disseminate information, helping us, find like-minded people to validate us, but they are not a replacement for real in-person community. At the core of our new community platform is a powerful, easy-to-use map helping you to instantly connect with like-hearted, like-minded community, including men and women, farms, schools, practitioners of all types, and other businesses near you. The platform also includes groups, social functions, messaging, and Platinum members also get access to our content library with footage from all of our in-person and virtual events like Confluence and the end of COVID, as well as breathwork sessions, Qigong sessions, member Q&As, and also member community calls. So if you'd like to support this podcast and support our mission of helping people to connect hyper-locally in person, and also obviously support yourself in the process, go to the show notes or just go to thewayforward.com/join. And again, the way forward is spelled thewayfwrd.com/join to become a member today. Help us build the way forward for mankind. The other thing that I would want to talk about is MAHA and the move towards like wearable tech and things like this. That the whole wearable paradigm is definitely not of our benefit. And I'm not going to say that you can't glean some good, helpful information about your health relative to that, but I think it's just incredibly important that we be very mindful.
Yeah, and just to be mindful, because when I asked, and I've done some research on the wearables, the way it was communicated to me is that the wearables are working as advertised. They're just doing something additional that isn't advertised. I can see that. And it's not, and it's kind of just a function inherent to the design of any device that emits a unique frequency that's ratified by the IEEE. It'll have a little number on the back of the device. it will, not necessarily, but in the case of a couple different things that I asked specifically about, they work as advertised. They just create a unique identifier that makes you even more identifiable in an acute sense. As not like they couldn't identify you without the device, but it's almost like a catch-22 because it's just helping you, but also exposing you. And this
is my thing. It's like, I think that we can cultivate that ability to really know about our health if we just tune inward more.
I agree. And I think that,
like, we don't need the wearables is what I'm saying.
You're right. And with your homeboy Health and Human Services Secretary coming out and saying, by the end of this term, every American will be wearing a wearable. I categorically reject that. I don't actually think that's true. I think half Americans are wearing one just because it's called an Apple Watch and they don't realize what it, the bigger context of what it could be. But I think that what any of our politicians, that's our HHS guy, whoever he happens to be each term, our presidents, our surgeon generals and everybody, no party is operating autonomously or with their own idea of what's best that they're bringing to the round table and suggesting and then moving forward. Absolutely not. We are talking about 100-year, 50-year, 20-year, 10-year mapped out trajectories of every major UN first world nation and probably all the third world ones too, where systems, technologies, protocols, laws, and all these things are being rolled out collectively. And I came to understand this bigger assault to be better explained like a psychological operation, because so much of it was requiring you to be afraid of something to then go sign up for something. Yep. Like COVID. Be afraid, go save your grandma, but just go get what we're telling you. Not out of non-fear. Fear is required, right? Yes. Second, nobody's getting this out of altruism. We want you to be afraid that you either can't travel, can't work, can't get, some sort of negative state is propelling your decision to do this. I just, it was in and around that zone and a little bit after that it became aware to me that any focus on any one vector and any one sector, I didn't mean that for that to rhyme necessarily, but any one vector, meaning avenue by which we're giving something to something else or injecting something or starting something or moving something through. And the sectors I break down into these 8 major sectors. And I've got my little handy iPad here, but I'll put the graphics up so everybody can see. Technology, politics, history, religion, medicine, food, education, and entertainment. It became aware to me that most of the truther space, if you will, is siloed into one of these different buckets. You're talking about that pharma, glyphosate, polysorbate 80, polyethylene glycol, Stephanie Seneff, all her work. I really enjoy reading her work because I'm learning, okay, got it. But she's not exclusively talking about pharmaceutical issues. She's more talking about agricultural problems.
Aluminum hydroxide acting with polysorbate 80 acting with glyphosate.
Glyphosate, precisely. But I noticed these little buckets. I was like, okay, people either talk about this or they talk about the whole vaccine and all that, or they talk about our education system's Rockefeller owned and I'm like, okay, that's not wrong, but like you're missing these other things. Or they're like, everybody's a tranny, including Alec, and the Masons run everything, and you can't trust Jesuit television. Plus, the hexagram owns your television and the banks and the media, so we can't trust. So there's all these different conversations, right? Some people were talking about the tech sector, mostly just about SpaceX and Palantir. Those are really the 2 names you hear, but even though there's plenty more companies involved in what's going on there. Tons of people talk about politics, mostly with the left-right divide. A couple people get into the old world Tartaria historical conversation, but not that much. Of course, you got all the people fighting left and right over religion, who's right, who's wrong, what's real, what isn't. But I realized I was a little interested in all of those categories, and I had learned over several years just enough in all of those categories to say, hey, you guys, I think that if you pay attention to any one of these, you're missing the whole mark. Mm-hmm. And if you're so focused on one, great, just leave the conversation open for the other 7 pieces to come together, because I think we're looking at a large psychological a multi-year psyop, psychological operation. So this project I built, I'm calling it the biopsy of a psyop. See, it's very much that. It's meant to represent a circular biopsy, like a slice of a cross section of something. But inside that cross section, you're seeing a lot and a little bit at the same time. My point, so for anybody who's curious what this map looks like, was just to draw a single image, just one colorful, iconic thing that you didn't have to have 80 versions of, just the one. But that one thing is unpackable at least in 8 different ways, if not 800 different ways.
And it is.
Because the point is, it's all of these things, y'all. It's the fact that we've the way I drew this map, for anybody who's interested. And so if you're listening to this, you're not looking at it. What you're looking at looks like the inside of a coaxial cable or some sort of carotid artery. Maybe we'll go with that's a bit too soon to speak about the carotid, but Charlie jokes notwithstanding, it's essentially the inside of this slice of a colorful extrapolation of 8 different industries that I feel govern the mind space of what's going on right now. And the reason I broke it down like this is because I believe that the pharmaceutical industry is doing a lot of dirty work, but they're not doing the bulk of it. They're doing the technological sector's dirty work, and the entertainment sector is doing the pharma sector's dirty work. And everybody's kind of helping each other out by compartmentalizing and splitting off the propaganda and the conversation from the technology and the function. Mm-hmm. And so as I built this map, I've shared it with a few people. I shared it with Alec, showed him a little early version of this project that I'm building.
Really good.
Thank you. The point of that project, this biopsy of a psyopsy, is to say, hey, you guys, if you never heard of none of this, or you're familiar with 1 or 2 of these things, here's the other rest of what you need to know to kind of begin to wrap your head around what's going on. Mm-hmm. I'm giving you a ton of terms. You probably never heard of these, but the point is for you to look them up and to learn how they connect. And I drew them in such a way where you should see what connects to what and what interfaces with what. But the idea is that the pharma industry is really helping the tech industry get what they want, because the pharma industry is what's injecting the technology and creating the metaphysical landscape through benzos and SSRIs and all these other pharmaceuticals that are metaphysiologically jacking you up.
That's a good word, metaphysiologically. That's
a metaphysiological mess up.
Yep.
Something like that. That's really a function of the pharmaceutical industry by way of the media industry. America's like the only country where you can have commercials for drugs. Like, that's not a thing pretty much anywhere else in the world. So we're having like, hey, if you're feeling bad and you want to go out and ride a bike with your grandkids, take Lipitor, take Liprexa, take Slorexazam, Midazolam. Like, not that one, but
you're right.
Any one of these. Do you want to lose weight? Don't actually eat better and exercise. Take Ozempic. It'll like melt your whole fat and muscle memory away in the process.
And your eyesight.
But you'll be skinny.
Right.
You'll look great. But the point is that pharma would never be able to install what it's trying to install for the tech industry without the media industry. We would never be duped into allowing ourselves to be miseducated on certain basic human functions like the biofield's existence without the education sector and the politics sector redacting a lot of that from the official educational material.
Right.
So it's like no one industry is responsible for it all.
Right.
And focusing on the indiscretions of any one industry only gets you like 1/8 of the picture at most. So the point of this whole map was to give people a colorful launching pad to say, okay, there is a solution and there is a problem, and we're going to help you identify that. And we're going to do it in a fun and easily palatable enough way where your 15-year-old and your 65-year-old can both get it. Your nerds can get it. Your non-nerds can get it. But the point is, it's all just this one. It's like, it's a lot, totally a lot going on in the one image, but it's meant to be a lot in a little bit.
Right.
Because I think we're under an assault that can be best categorized as a lot and a little bit. It is both a lot, and the solutions and problem identification and solutions are not as crazy as you would think. They're not. It's not like because the problem has got a lot going on, therefore you have to do a lot to fix. It's really not like that at all. It's that there's some very, very basic stuff that's being left out of the conversation. And when those realities come into the conversation, stuff starts to change real quick. It was presented to me as bilocation. That when you're talking on the phone, I didn't know this, but apparently when we're talking on the phone, we're bilocating with our biofields at the same time.
What?
This is what made me believe that without really knowing that I believed it yet. Because when I was younger, I would always go, if I hold my phone and I call my mom's phone or my sister's phone or my brother's phone, and I say, hey, what's up? There's always at least a second delay, at least 1 second, if not more. And the data is being routed a very long direction. So the fact it's only 1 second, it's pretty impressive. But when we're talking on the phone, do you ever notice how very seldom it takes you a second to respond to what somebody's saying? You can almost like know what they're saying or finish their sentence
instantaneously, as if you're there.
It's like having a conversation with somebody just like this, with the exception of those certain phone calls where it's a little laggy, and so there's a little bit of stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah.
It was when that was explained to me that the reason that's possible is because we're actually biofield connecting while also on the phone.
I believe that. Totally believe that. I mean, that's how Eileen does what she does remotely. Makes sense.
And I just never really caught that that's the phenomenon that explains why, even though there's obviously a lag in this delay or in this connection, it doesn't ever come off like that.
Right.
When you're talking on the phone. It's because you're kind of etherically already connected and listening and feeling and kind of knowing where they're going, and the way our bodies are just built in. It's the same thing with telepathy. It's why I believe telepathy exists. Yep. It's why I believe they can create synthetic telepathy.
Yes.
Because they understand these principles, and many of us are just now waking up to the fact that this is a reality, and that we have it within our wherewithal to harness, to use for good. Right? It took a long time to not think all of this was just witchcraft and woo-woo. But again, that's another fundamental, if you ask me, assault against the Christian and religious community. It's called everything witchcraft. Bluetooth would be witchcraft if we lived in the 1950s.
You're using it.
You see what I'm
that's
saying?
what's wild. Like, a lot of people these days who consider themselves Christians are using Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. They're using this technology, and they're not calling it witchcraft.
Right, but again, it's branding. That's the power of media. You see what I'm saying? Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
This one sector, this entertainment sector, where I'm talking about digital twins. Under this section, I have the whole 440, 432 hertz tuning, because all of that is about getting everybody's frequency through media. That is books, movies, TV, and radio, to be more in line with a off resonant numerical number that isn't divisible by your biosignature as evenly as this other number. That already puts you in a slight state of dissonance, where certain things are inharmonious and then can be quantized out of phase with the rest of your body, which again is part of how they're trying to use your body like a computer.
Yeah.
So with this map and this big project that I've been working on, I'm excited to be able to share it with everybody, especially your audience. We'll put a link to it down in the show notes, and the link will be to the full documentary explaining the nuts and bolts of everything going on. Again, Alex got to see a little sneaky.
The first 18 minutes of it that I've seen are incredibly entertaining. I mean, I know how good you are at video production, video editing, so it's really well done. So Chris is the voice behind What If My Body Is Brilliant, and he's also the one who edited the video version of What If My Body Is Brilliant, and all of the way forward coming in intro thing for the end of COVID and all the stuff for each of the intro videos and the end of COVID. Chris did that as well. Yeah. Yeah, so this series is it's going to be incredibly entertaining.
I think so. Entertaining, because to me, entertainment takes people's barrier down.
It does.
Enough to learn.
You're able to digest information much better when it's entertaining.
And so that feedback has resonated well amongst my traditional audience, but this project is about me trying to find a way to really help people get their bearings, because I say this all the time. I don't think people are dumb. I really have a lot of faith in the ability for the human ingenuity and creativity to come up with awesome creative solutions. I think when you have a hand tied behind your back and somebody's working with a body part that they know exists that you don't know exists, you're just working from a deficit. Yep. You're doing fencing with one hand and your biofield tied behind your back. And my goal with this project and with this discussion is to help people understand, like, the conversation is a bit further than where they're letting on. These technological and wireless communication systems, you don't need to be afraid of them, but please understand they're doing a lot more than what they let on. But with that, you can begin to understand it and make wise choices for yourself and your family and your children and your health when you zoom out just enough to see how each system correlates with the other systems, and more importantly, what you can do interpersonally to beat what's coming. And again, you speak to this all the time, Alec. The human potential, what humans are capable of through their ability to channel the power that the Most High God Creator has bestowed and told us all we have access to tap into. We got to put our bodies in a coherent and clear enough state to allow that to flow properly. Yep. But I hope that anybody watching this has not left with any sort of fear, or if it is fear, it's just a tiny bit of fear that can galvanize your research and awareness so that that fear can be squelched and you can move forward making wise choices about what to do, because we do have the ability to fight this. It's not permanent. It's just it's an uphill battle, and it's a uphill battle that can be less and less and less uphill the less biodigitally converted we are.
Amen. Well said. I don't think I need to say anything after that. That's so well said.
Thank you, Alec. Thank you for having me, man.
Bro, this is this is amazing, man.
Yeah.
Like, I wish people understood the context of the amount of phone calls you and I have had about so many different topics, right, man. And I want to have you back on to talk about the Bible, because that's a whole separate topic that I know you are incredibly knowledgeable about.
Thanks, man.
It'd be epic to have that conversation at some point too. But man, this was epic, man.
I agree. And I think people are going to benefit and learn. And I think that, true to your brand, the way forward is about boldness and truth and community. And I didn't learn any of this stuff on my own. And there's been a tremendous amount of people who you've brought to this very chair before me who have given me very, very important tools to help piece together what it is I'm learning. So moving forward, I really think, like I said, I have a lot of hope for Americans. I don't know about the corporate idea, but as a people, I have faith in us, and I have faith in our ability to use our metaphysical and electric etheric body to fight off what I do believe is an electronic and etheric war that we're in. So, with that, go forward. Godspeed.
Love you, man.
Love you too, buddy.